Right. I have retweeted in a few places. Hopefully, people will rejoin us.
Cool. Yeah, say we had Odie on earlier. So he dropped off. It's all good. Cool. How we feeling, Kara? How we doing tonight? How we doing tonight, Kara?
Sorry, I got muted because I was accepting as co-host.
It's all good.
Uh, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good night of sort of just gathering different news. A lot's been going on, and I figured, we would just pick a few today because there's so much. But yeah, today's been a really good sort of relaxing day. It's the holidays, so it's a short school day for the kids. So I'm, getting used to sort of holiday hours now.
Yeah, everything's so slow paced, and even here in Miami, the weather's a little bit chilly for us in the low 70s. So yeah, it's that time of the year of winding down, being with family, feeling. I remember last week you were a bit toasty. I didn't catch that until I listened back. You were like, "Oh, feeling toasty." So feel
Yeah,
free
I
to
had
feel
my heater on, and my heater was getting my toes nice and warm.
toasty. Well, feel free to dive into that type of energy tonight.
Yeah. Do you keep your balcony doors open when you're doing any of these?
No, 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 because it's too cold for me. Um, I keep my house at about 75, anyways. And because I'm so high, I'm 36 floors up, so like it gets pretty windy if I leave. But this is loud, so you guys would end up hearing it in the background.
Can you hear the ocean from there?
No, 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 because the ocean. I am in downtown, so the ocean's a little. It's probably like 5 miles. I can see the ocean.
Oh, okay,
It's a
okay.
good like 5 miles. No, no, I wouldn't even say 5 miles. About 2 miles, 3 miles down. Um, but yeah, because it's a high rise. It gets pretty windy up here and loud when I do leave them open.
Do you ever play your guitar on the balcony?
Yes, I have for the ladies,
Nice.
for the ladies next door. And it's pretty interesting the way my building is set up. Like, so I just had neighbors move in next door, and literally, so I have these the blinders are from ceiling floor to ceiling blinders, and I roll them down every night because I like my keep keep the house with no light. I don't like the lights shining in from the city. So, anyways, I roll it up the other day, and somebody moved in next door. There was these two ladies and waved at each other. It was so weird, but you can literally see into each other's apartments. Kind of strange, but I'm getting to know the neighbors that way.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, we wanted to dive into some of the stuff, and it was pretty cool. I saw you put a little 15-minute space together on some of the Caspa news, and I wanted to dive into that with you and see what your thoughts were on some of the things that are developing within the Caspa community. Again, late part of the year, and a lot still going on. Um, the sentiment in the market, right, isn't the best right now, if in my opinion. But I think the people that really see what this technology is about, what it can do for the world, so the real soldiers is how I see it, are the people that are around. And I want to start off talking about a really cool concept that came together. And I mentioned when I was at dinner with Caspa Queen, Seb. I met Merlin, and I know Merlin has teamed up with Izio Dev, and they are launching a hackathon, which they named a Caspathon. And I think that's super cool. It goes to show that within Caspa, we're being innovative and launching these projects to bring builders to the ecosystem and to see what they can build. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Kara. Um, what do you think about the Caspathon?
I think it's great. Follow along. You can go to caspathon.com. This is an amazing thing. Anyone can participate, and they're already allowing registration. I believe it started. already, didn't it? Let's
It
see.
did. Yeah, I saw that it did. I'm gonna
Yeah,
link.
and this is this is really cool because this is going to get a lot of people involved in testing out how to build on Caspa, including those of us that don't have a whole lot of practical coding experience. We can use things such as AI to give us a hand, right? And a $200,000, well, it's not one package, there's several reward systems. When I say systems, I'm referring to groups of rewards. 200,000 casts is nothing to sneeze at. So I think that there's a lot as far as reward to get people motivated, and I really like that. Let's see. It looks as if, okay, so the hackathon starts January 16th, and the submission deadline is February 15th. And it looks that they're like there's going to be expert judges reviewing all the submissions. Do you know who the judges are?
No, no, have no clue who the judges are. Um,
I wonder who Izio and Seb would consider expert judges because they're both pretty smart.
yeah. Well, I know Merlin. Merlin was a big organizer with this, and it was pretty interesting in London having conversations with him at dinner and even during the event, and how excited he was to get this going and his connections. I mean, he's a part of. I also remember he was a part of the team that I don't know if the project is still live or they're still going with it, but it was I think it was called K Keep Your Own Keys or Keep Your Own. I can't think of it off the top, but so he was a part of that, and then this whole hackathon conversation. I remember it happening there at dinner, and it's pretty cool to see it materialize as quickly as it did. It's a cool thing about going to the events. You get the inside scoop on like what's coming.
Yeah.
So I know Merlin's been in I think around just as long as you, Kara, and he's a pretty smart dude. Just knows his stuff. So I know that he's behind it as your dev, and yeah, I'm not sure who the judges are,
It
but giving
looks like
away
there's
that
going to
much
be
Caspa,
10.
that's so cool. That's so cool that they
Yeah. There's
have
going to be
contests like
judges.
this. Mhm.
There's a panel of 10 judges. AI is allowed, it just needs to be noted that AI was used, but it's fair game. Anyone can use that. This is super cool. And what I really like about this is it invites people even outside of Caspa to look at what can be built on Caspa for the purpose of, hey, making a little extra money on the side. And in our echo chamber, right? This is something that attracts hackers and builders from everywhere. And usually, historically speaking, hackathons tend to bring in a lot of people and a lot of interest. And what we need are developers and builders. And this is exactly what we need. So I think this is exactly what we need right now. And it's such a generous amount of prizes. This is incredible. The main track is 100,000 casts. The category track prizes are 50,000 casts. And even mention prizes are 50,000 casts. So people can win for best UX, UI, best beginner project, most creative use of Caspa, best real world application, community favorite. So even if you don't build something that's super, super useful, right, in a real world sense that is going to be used at the grocery store or something, it can still be voted as a community favorite. So there's a lot of opportunity to win here. And some of the categories are payments and commerce, gaming and interactive, and real time data, which is also interesting because we heard Jonathan talk about real time decentralization and what he's wanting to do with that. So, all of this is. Did you hear about this first when you were in London?
Yeah, yeah. Again, Merlin. I got to meet Merlin, and they were talking. He was going back and forth with Seb about setting that up, and Seb obviously with what he's doing with cast maps. The conversation sparked when Seb was talking about, I forget what, again, off the top, but what he's talking about with having with going to these campuses and speaking to students and getting them incentivized to work, within the system, or onboarding them to Caspa. And that's where the whole Merlin just brought up that he's done a ton of hackathons and he thought that that was a good idea. And Merlin on Monday's blockchain banter even talks about like how his son's excited to let his friends know at school because he's in university as well. So yeah, that's where the conversation started. It's pretty cool to see it, just a few weeks later actually materialize and have support. So it's super, super neat. Yeah. So if we're not devs or anything like that or necessarily builders, but it's a pretty cool initiative, and maybe we'll see how it materializes, because I think as it says there, what it's going to be in January is, or when final submissions can be submitted. But I got to read through the details, because you can sponsor a team or test products, give feedback. There's a lot of things that we can do to contribute if we want to.
The submission deadline's February
Okay.
15th.
February,
So
right?
it starts January 16th, but the registration is going on now. And I also looked up which other cryptocurrencies have done events like this to attract developers. Ethereum did this, Solana did this, Polkadot, Chainlink, Algo, Hedera, ZK Sync,
Mm.
Chili. Other projects such as Near and Radix and other L2s, they've run or participated in other hackathons. And this really does drive a lot of eyes. And I remember Ethereum doing this. This is huge. And Ethereum still runs them. They still do hackathons. They've done ETH class. They've done a ton of hackathons. And Solana, they've done a lot of them as well. They've had a summer camp ignition, a cypherpunk hackathon, and when they do it, they tend to draw thousands of submissions, and they offer millions of prizes. Now ours is sort of starting with a generous amount, modest amount compared to Solana. But if they can draw in thousands of submissions, imagine what Caspa can pull, especially given how fast it is and secure and decentralized proof of work, right? So there's a lot of motivating factors to pull in developers. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, especially with the difference in the text and what can be built on. I still think a lot of people don't know about Caspa, and obviously it being a fair launched um, community project, it doesn't have the backing of Solana or even Ethereum and all that. So it's going to attract talent, and that eventually spreads. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great thing for the ecosystem, no doubt.
That's what it's about, attracting good talent, right? Because if we attract good builders like Izio Dev, it grows. I mean, when he first sort of got his name known among the Caspa community, people really knew him for Cassia messaging. And now we see he's part of KEF. He's going to be funded for this whole year. Well, I say
That's
year, we're
pretty awesome.
December, but it's a whole year, right?
Yeah, that's
And
pretty cool.
his whole thing is to support core.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a cool story. I love hearing things like that, and um, him doing what he did with Cassia messaging, and then obviously getting on core and being somebody fresh, and it just shows that this ecosystem is all about innovating and bringing in fresh minds. And yeah, I'm happy for Izio Dev. Seems like a great guy. I've heard him. He was on the Monday blockchain banter for a little bit. I didn't get to listen in for that long, but it's great. It's great to see. It's a great story.
Yeah, I remember Michael Sutton recently shouted out Izio because of what Izio did with PR 740, where that was merged into the Rusty Caspa repo. And there were two significant contributions that allowed populated transactions to be returned in RPC. I'm not familiar with RPC. I don't know what that is, but I do know what they're able to do. And it serves a lot of important use cases needed for integration. So here's the two things. Number one, being able to tell the source address or the sender of an accepted transaction. And two, being able to calculate the fee paid by a transaction when it's been accepted. So those are two contributions that he's done. There's always so much happening, and it's because of the talent, right? It's because of the skill. There was something about Caspa that made him look this way and bring his talent, and now he's being recognized for it. And now he's going to bring his use of sharing his code into how it integrates with technology, which is something Michael Sutton is especially excited about. Um, Getting to see that happen, we're watching history being made right here.
Yeah, I love it. It's way over my head, Kara, especially when we get into the acronyms and all that. But it sounds great. Sounds beautiful. Sounds wonderful. Um, it's all net positive for the community when you get talent coming in and these guys are building. It's a beautiful thing to see. No doubt about that.
What was it like meeting Izio? I know we
No,
talked about Seb a few times, but you met him, right?
no, I didn't meet Izio. I didn't meet
Just
Merlin.
Merlin
I
and
met
Seb.
Merlin. I met Merlin. Yeah. So I know him and he got with Izio. I mean, he told us there. He's like, oh, I can potentially get with Izio, and he's got connections with. I don't know if it's with the rest of Core or whatnot, but yeah, Merlin seemed pretty connected with Caspa, and again, it's super cool to see him be able to put this together as quickly as he did and get
Yeah.
funding for it and all that. So
One
super.
thing I really respect about Izio is that he's very pro free speech. This is one reason why he got behind Cassia messaging to begin with. And I remember when I was briefly running Caspa Unchained and getting a lot of heat from the community, he reached out to me privately with very encouraging words, very compassionate words, because, like I said, he's very free speech oriented and he sees the big vision here. So when I heard that he's joining CORE, I knew they were getting somebody who really understands sovereignty and freedom. And I just am so happy to see him joining CORE for this whole year. I can't wait to see what happens.
Oh wow. So that's pretty cool that he reached out to you directly. It seems like everybody that was behind you and supported you, we were all big time, hey, people are allowed to say what they want to say. Why are we trying to muzzle anybody or anything? And obviously people took it a little bit too far, but that's super cool that he reached out to you.
Oh, yeah. Man, I've got so much respect for him. I mean, anyone who can take the time to build a free speech platform that's as powerful as Cassia messaging, where people can send immutable encrypted messages, is huge because we're so used to living in this world where Big Brother can ban us at any time. People say, oh, well, you can just use WhatsApp or you can use Signal, but there's problems. You can get banned on WhatsApp. And Signal goes down when AWS, Amazon Services, goes down. We saw that happening very recently. And because you can't really trust being there, you kind of have to go to a trustless network, which makes Caspa the perfect solution for that.
Yeah, it's definitely. Have you used it? Have you used Cassia?
Yes,
Okay.
my first handshake was with Moose.
With Moose? Okay. Yeah, I talked to Caspa Silver on there. We need to we need to get more people connected to it and actually use it a lot more than we do, I think.
Yeah,
There's still there's what's that?
here's a good use case. And I heard this brought up. Do you remember when Caspa Facts got blocked or banned?
Yeah. Yep,
Well,
I do.
people needed to verify it was him, and I was able to verify it was him because I had given him the facts.cast domain, and I was able to send money to that. He verified the money and sent it back to me from his wallet. Well, if people don't have that as a way to verify someone, if they get blocked or banned on X, they can use Cassia messaging to say, hey, is this really you? It's a great way to prove that if someone comes back after being blocked or banned on X, it's a good way to prove that a person is who they are to prevent a scammer saying, "Hey," right? Because one, if you get banned and people see a new wand come up, we won't know it's you unless there's some really surefire way to know. Now,
Exactly.
obviously, we could just call each other and say, "Hey, is this you?" But if we didn't have phone numbers and we were just anonymous people, it'd be good to use Cassia messaging or have some other Caspa immutable, provable way, right? And so that was one use case that I've already seen people start to use outside of just regular text messaging.
Yeah, I mean the fact that we can be censored on any of these platforms are like that, and I mean I you know what I noticed? I had been putting up I've been putting up YouTube videos, for example, and I went to comment because Seb had tagged us to see if we could there's a gentleman, James, I forget his last name, but he's been putting up really good YouTube videos about why he's building on Caspa and how it's been a great fit for where he's at and what he's built. I don't know if you know who I'm speaking of, but I know his first name's James. Oh, he's called Cityscape on YouTube. And I went to go reach out to him, just send him a message, and then I realized that I'm banned from leaving comments on YouTube. Like
For
Casper,
everybody?
yeah, yeah. I got banned. I got restricted. I can't leave. I can't leave comments on YouTube. Yeah,
What?
that literally just happened to me yesterday. I wrote Seb a message. I didn't let you know about it, but yeah, I don't. And then when I went to go look at my videos, and I deleted all the videos that I put up, but I got a warning sign that said, this doesn't change the fact that you're restricted or banned. We're still reviewing your content.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's
and
messed up. You're a positive person. You're not a spammer. You're not a scammer. You're
yeah,
not out there trying to trick people into sending you money. I don't
I don't even.
understand
I have a.
why
It was.
they would do that.
They were like innocent. Well, not. I mean, I was talking about sovereignty, Bitcoin, Caspa, obviously, and I don't know. I'm talking. We're talking about things that are against the institution. I mean, I guess X puts up with it, but I just think it's going to get worse and worse with a lot of these bigger companies um, that are centralized and can just ban what you want to speak about.
Have you
Right.
heard of Rumble?
Yes, I have heard of Rumble. I'm not. I've never been on it though. I have heard of it.
This is
Isn't
where
that where
Candace
Trump went
Owens.
to? Like once he got banned, didn't he
Yes.
get banned from YouTube or something like that?
Yes. And this is where Candace Owens is. This is what she's promoting too. She says, and I listened to her say this just yesterday. She said, go to Rumble where you can have the freedom to have a political viewpoint that's yours, basically. You don't have to worry about getting taken down for having wrong opinion, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. Well, she is interested in free speech. She is interested in decentralization. She is interested in those things, but she's not acknowledged CASPA. And I do wonder about Rumble because that's centralized, is it not?
Yeah, yeah. Everything's like all of these have somebody, some sort of.
And if it's centralized, you're going to eventually get banned. That's just the way it works.
Well, again, it depends on the influence from the top. Because it's top down control. That's the difference between building a system that starts like that from a foundation or funding versus a decentralized protocol or Web3, right? It's bottom up. That's why people, I think, get all riled up on like, oh, we need to do more this and that, and they don't realize like, okay, with a protocol like Caspa, I mean, and even Bitcoin needed a lot of the people to come into it early like they did. And one of my favorite guys that isn't a Bitcoiner anymore is Roger Ver. Roger Ver helped put Bitcoin on the map in the beginning. He paid for all the big advertising in the beginning of it. He was a proponent of doing like what I'm doing right now, a big initiative, and that's just onboarding people onto wallets so that they have some, Bitcoin back then. And I see it the same way for us. So yeah, it really depends, right, on how influenced they get, because I think essentially all of those companies could be captured. It really depends who invests into them Money speaks, money talks. So they start getting.
Regardless of their politics, though, Juan, regardless of their politics, whether they're Democrat or Republican, it almost doesn't matter because the second you start attacking some things that go on in the blackmail schemes, as soon as you start attacking the pedophilia in the royal family, as soon as you start attacking certain things, anyone at the top will start to shut you down.
Yeah,
This is what I've noticed across the board. And so this is why it's so important to me to have something such as Cassia messaging where we can really have free speech and say what we want. Because centralization just keeps us from ever having a real voice. There's always a risk of watch it or you'll get it taken down,
I
right?
agree. Yeah, and I think just where we are in society nowadays, it's like everybody, like I don't even look at I don't see the blue check mark on X as a bad thing because you actually have to pay, you have to put some money down to have that. It's I found out it's a different price for people all over the world. But that is a way to at least verify a profile, right? And there isn't any consequences for um and I'm not saying, obviously free speech is super important, but to verify, people like, some that you can easily spam on some of these centralized platforms. And I think the AI and how it is right now, that they'll filter things. I don't know, I'm feeling it. So you got a message from me earlier saying, hey, how come we've only gotten like 200 some odd views considering,
Right.
I'm just feeling something something with that. It's like, I heard last week, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard that a lot of the crypto talk. So if you're posting, dollar sign Cass, that the AI is picking that up and in a sense like shadow banning you, so you're not getting as many views. And obviously, if you want to get more reach and all that, you have to pay for the different packages and whatnot to have reach. So it's just, to me, it's just a big cluster, and I just think it's only going to get worse because we hear about what's happening over there in the UK, and I've seen some posts about that on, hey, they may be taking down some content. And I think we're not seeing a lot of stuff, and they're doing it even with the people that follow us, right? I don't have any paid followers. Like, everybody willingly is following me, but there are tons of accounts out there that pay for their followers. You can tell by the engagement they get. They don't get anybody commenting on their shit. So yeah, I think now is more a super important time to be building apps like Cassia. Um, even Vivor, obviously the money layer is built on Caspa, and they're looking to continue to expand within Caspa. But yeah, it's just more important than ever that we keep our sovereignty in every aspect of our lives, um, because it's being taken away with these centralized companies. That's the way I see it.
So I have a different perspective. I am, instead of feeling as if I'm shadow banned, which I have experienced in the past, and I have been shadow banned in the past, so I know what it looks and feels like. I am actually getting more impressions than I ever have, and I'm almost eligible for monetization. And my impressions are more than 5 times higher than they've ever been. However, I think I have found a trick to make that happen. And I don't think it's necessarily crypto related. I think the important thing is whose whose comments your replies appear under and how many
Okay.
views they get. There's almost a formula to it, and I think I've figured it out. And I don't think that they're banning people based on crypto, but I think they're rewarding people based on variety.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, please share. I'd love to learn about this.
Well, I've noticed that when I make a comment under Candace Owens or something that's trending that has many points of interest to it, then the algorithm's going to bump up my my comment, which it does anyway because I have the Caspa bots badge and I'm verified. But I had that before and I wasn't being bumped up like I am now. And I think it's a matter of figuring out what's trending, how many comments and views are they getting. And when you show interest in what's trending, the algorithm rewards you for it. And then it actually gets, it bumps you up in the algorithm for things that you normally talk about. So if you look at if you look at my tweets right now, my replies are a variety. They're not all crypto, but my posts are all crypto. And so in the last week, I've probably had probably 350 to 400 new followers this week who have nothing with crypto, but they're learning about crypto just by looking at my page. And
Yeah.
so it's bringing new people, they're asking new questions. And I'm now being followed by some big players that have a lot of views, a lot of followers. I'm being followed by Joey Swole. He's got 1.1 million followers. And
And
he
that's
only
from
follows
the
a few
Candace
people.
Owen post.
I don't know which post, but I have been replying to him
That's
on various things he said for months, and he just now started, reached out, he DM'd me, followed me. It's amazing. And he's not the only one. I mean, there's a few others, lots of influence, and suddenly they're seeing my stuff in a way they haven't before. So I'm not seeing the shadow ban that you're seeing.
yeah. I don't know. I am speculating. I don't know. It's just something recently, and I haven't really paid attention to it as much as I have recently. So yeah, it may just be something that I'm overthinking over here. Um, so yeah, I got verified, or I verified my account, and I don't pay for it's like the $10-15 one. It's not, you know, and I did that the right after I met Kaspa Onion and you and a handful of people on the debates. So,
Right.
prior to that, I didn't have any exposure. I didn't want any, but I wanted to
Okay.
connect with all you guys, and that was an incentive, right? An incentive to at least be verified and to start connecting with other people within the community. So, I do think, like I said, I think it's a good thing to have the blue check mark because then you don't have to. You can work your way through the people that you don't know that they could be spam. There's a lot of spam on here, so it at least gives people some credibility, if anything. So, but that's
So
cool.
Elon Musk, go ahead.
No, no, I was gonna say that's cool. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Elon Musk is getting a lot of heat right now for the blue check marks because it just verifies that a person has shown their identity, but it doesn't prove that their identity is what they claim. He has been fighting this back and forth for a while, but it just made me think of that. But did you know that Elon, I guess it was released today, made a statement. I don't know if this is even true or not, but it's being repeated everywhere. That he said that we don't have to save money anymore because we're going to be guaranteed a high universal income. Can you believe that?
I have heard that. I've heard the same thing. I've heard him say that. Yeah, he said
Uh,
that. That speaks to the CBDCs that are being built and all this stuff. I mean, even Trump went on today. I saw a clip. It was like a 15-second clip of him acknowledging that the financial rails and our all that is antiquated, right? Running on old legacy systems and how it takes forever, and that he mentioned crypto and how it's going to be built on crypto. I don't think that's what most people think it is, right? That like they're not going to choose. I know Bitcoiners want it to be Bitcoin. I think it's the CBDCs and the stable coins and all that. And those can be, to me, I look at those as Trojan horses to what this movement was originally about. And I do think most Bitcoiners have forgotten what that is. There's still some OG ones out there that understand what it's about, and they're all here at Caspa now. So yeah, I have heard him say that, Kara, and it's I don't know. People don't like
How is it
that's a form of
possible?
control. Huh?
How's it possible? How's it possible for everyone in the world to have a high income?
It's a great question. It's a
I mean,
great
I just
question.
don't see how that would work because the one thing that we can rely on with humanity, as much as I don't like it, the most reliable thing with human beings is greed. And humans will always want more. So no matter how high it gets, it will never be enough. And so you're always going to end up with disparity. You're going to have classes that are
Yeah,
having disparity. So how does everyone have a high income?
I'm with that. I'm with that that there's going to be a section of the population that is like that and that will go out and strive. Like there's always going to be entrepreneurs. There's always going to be people that want more than what they have. That's true. I think that that's a small percentage. I think a majority, I've talked about the 80-20 rule. That I think that applies in just even in nature, right? It's just so I don't. That's a good question. Like, how are we going to be able to fund the world? I mean, we could. I just see them printing the shit out of the dollar. Um, maybe using. Take a look at the macro sense and what's happening. Gold, I believe, has gone from like a $20 trillion market cap to 30 trillion. So there's nation states, sovereign nations that are buying up gold. The secret's out. I mean, in terms of what's happening with fiat. We've seen this story play out over history. I mean, this isn't the first time that a currency is being debased. It's just we've come into put into our awareness here recently. But and I mentioned it on a previous show. The average currency throughout history has only lasted 27 years on average, and we've been on this U.S. dollar as the global reserve world currency for 54 years, and it's catching up to us, right? It's just I think a lot of the things that they're reporting out there, and Elon sees things that we don't. He has privy information that we do not have, so that it's interesting that he's thinking like that. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to print the shit out of money and it's going to benefit us that hold these hard assets that are scarce supply. So it's going to benefit every single Caspa holder in here. And it absolutely will benefit us. It'll benefit Bitcoiners, right? Anybody that's holding a hard asset, it's going to benefit. But 7 billion people on the planet do not hold assets, and how are they going to get funded to survive and live? Like they probably got to print the shit out of money, and then we're going to wake up and gas is going to be $20 a gallon.
Ooh.
A loaf of bread's going to be 15 bucks.
Oh
I mean
no.
that's a part that I don't think that listen, Kara, that's a part that I think people don't get. Like they want their Bitcoin to go to a million. We obviously want Caspa to go up in price, but I don't think people realize what if it goes up in price, that means everything else gets expensive, by the way.
True.
It doesn't work the other way around. So we'll be able to afford a lot more, but everything else goes up in price as well. So, maybe he's talking about a world, because again, I've heard him say that about the universal income. And I think I heard him say like a figure like 10 grand, like everybody should be able to get by on 10 grand. And it's just to afford the basic needs, right? It's like, I mean, he's kind of talking. Is that governmental or is it like world welfare? You know, um,
Yeah.
I don't see how that helps society. So that's why these movements, like what we're doing and what we're talking about, and educating people and having people think for themselves and learn about history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. This story has played out before. Like America's been the dominant nation for quite some time here, but America's only 250 years old. We'll be 250 next year, right? Rome was 1,000 years old and it fell,
Right.
right? And why did it fall? Because they started clipping away at the denarius. They were people were debased. The same fucking stories playing out. Excuse my language. So we've seen this happen. And maybe that's how they do it. They just print the shit out of the money. I mean, it's going to be easier with these stable coins. Like that's another part that I don't think people get. Stable coins being all over the world. Um, There's nothing stable about a stable coin. Like they,
So that brings up something. Okay, so stable gold. Have you heard about Solana that they're putting out the world's first sovereign backed digital gold token? Have you heard this?
what the? Are you
Yeah.
serious? No. What?
Yes,
Tell me
and it was
more.
so my understanding is that it was supposed to go live today. It's it's a TER, that's what they're calling it, TER. It's fully backed 1-to-1 by physical gold custodied by DK Bank, tokenized by Matrix stock, and issued through, I think it was, I don't know how to pronounce it, Gellifu, I don't know, Mindfulness City. And it's backed by real gold, Solana. This is TER, it's the new thing. And when I heard Onion talk about it, he said, "Whoa, that's gonna rug." Uh,
Yeah. Anything that's done by a proof of stake. I mean, it's just like I don't understand why people don't see it. I do understand why people don't see it. It's because they're so distracted by dumb shit. But yeah, that sounds horrible.
well, here's the thing though, don't we? Okay, so this is where I have ambivalence. Because on one hand, I see the rug, but on the other hand, I appreciate something being backed by gold, especially after what happened with Nixon pulling that. And now we don't have the dollar backed by gold. So what happens if you have a digital currency backed by gold? And
It's
what are we really looking at?
it's
We've
just
never seen it
yeah.
before.
My take on this is look, we tried the gold thing, and the reason Nixon had to do I mean, Nixon wasn't the only person behind the fact that the United States went bankrupt. It was us spending more than we made. And like that's the way the system is designed like that. The system is designed for it to essentially rug. So anything, that's why none of these other proof of stakes protocols, like, if there wasn't, if all there was Bitcoin, like I would be a Bitcoiner. I would not call myself a Bitcoin maxi. I would be a sovereign. I'm about sovereignty and not being debased. So I'd have Bitcoin and gold and silver. But I see the underlayings, what's beneath the surface of these proof of stake networks. Like when it comes to that, I have nothing against like building business and being an entrepreneur and trying to make things happen. But like the money part of this, and what I've, for me, it's been the past 2 years of just studying that and really, really feeling into it and understanding the intricacies of it and the history of it. Yeah, like any of these other platforms, like if you're trying to build utility and build cool shit, like I mean, I'm not into the NFTs or anything like that, but I think it's cool that people are building that, and I have nothing against any of that. But when it comes to the money and like what do they do? Yeah, I don't understand that. Like I don't get the paper gold either. I don't get EFTs in gold. I don't get any of these Bitcoin things, buying it through the stock market. Like none of that shit makes sense to me. Because if you don't have like the actual asset, you don't really own it, so in cold storage, that's how it needs to
KRCbot
be.
is in here. KRCbot, if you want to be a speaker,
Oh yeah,
please. I know you,
we haven't seen him in a while. It'd be great to hear
dude.
from KRC Bot.
We know that you know this topic.
Onion
And
too, Onion too. So
yeah, yeah. And also, Jonathan talked on Discord about he and the devs are going to be introducing early building blocks for programmability. Oh, here comes KRCbot. I'm approving him. We're going to be having good, good. I just want to finish this sentence real quick. Jonathan is talking about doing a hard fork so that we can have native support for stable coins before DAG night. So this is huge in itself. But yeah, KRCbot, just say whatever you want to say about this. The floor is yours.
yes, please school us, sir.
Well, um, in inflation, if let's say you had 70% of the budget and you don't get any control over it, you get 30% control. Everyone's just kind of arguing over that, but the debt will just be able to go in one place. So all you can do is print more money. That way, you still have more spending power. So when you get to something like everyone can have a lot of money, that might be true, but what comes down to is how you calculate it. So there's a nice little post that came out not too long ago about the calculation for the poverty line. And the calculation of the poverty line, if you go look at it, it was based off of the major expense for a household, which was food, but it never got updated. And if you look at your expenses right now, food is not the biggest one, or hopefully it isn't. But if you recalculate it off of what people actually consume, housing, food, insurance, things that you don't have really much of a choice on, for a household of four, which is what the original calculation was on, depending on where you are in the median, it ends up being above $100,000 a year, and that calculates into also childcare, right? So all those things in there, it's that the numbers used for calculating everything are fundamentally wrong. So um, that creates a huge issue. And so yeah, the underlying thing here is that there's a transfer of wealth, and that's going to lead to more inflation. And there's not much you can do about at this point, because the contracts are long term, and this is the only way forward. So I wouldn't be surprised that the UBI will come around. More so because what you'll see is more and more of this is just job labor displacement. So humans are looked at a cog in a company. They're not looked as the labor force as part of the company. So if you can replace it, shareholder profit is the priority. So you'll see IBM, release uh, receptionists and HR and things like that in favor of chatbots, and that will be going pretty much viral. And now people might say, wait, that can't be true. But in your own experience, you can look at the grocery store, right? 20 years ago, you'd find maybe one or two self checkout. Now it's ubiquitous, right? Self checkouts everywhere. And some places in the country, you can walk into the store and there's not even a person. There's just a security guard. You walk in there, you put your hand on it, you check in with Amazon Go, and you just grab it, put in your bag, and walk out the door. Automation AI is leading the way for everything. And unlike humans, if you get 10 humans making 10 boxes, you produce 10 boxes and you create more value. With AI, you scale up a person and you actually reduce costs. So you're creating more boxes, but you're paying the person the same amount. So what does that mean? It means everything just becomes cheaper. So when everything is going to zero against Bitcoin or whatever have you, really what comes down to is we're automating and AIing the world around us. So our service-based culture has no real value anymore. That's pretty much where the ball's going.
Do you have any thoughts on the gold backed Solana?
Real world assets are pretty much where everything's going to. So gold isn't specific more than anything else. So if you can put mortgages behind it, people will do it. If you can put gold behind it, people will do it. If you can put land behind it, people will do it. But with the inflation part, what you really need is cash flowing assets. So those things will hold value. And in terms of that, I mean, why would you want paper rather than, I don't know, a ton of heavy gold? It's a lot easier for you to trade paper, right? Just like it's a lot easier for you to take a digital wallet with you on a plane to another country and spend it. It's a lot easier for you to go to another country, call up a broker and say, hey, I want to unload this and be physically somewhere else. So it kind of gives you the same type of idea there. But yeah, gold, all hard assets, anything that people covet and find valuable, they'll want to digitize it so they have quick liquidity and they can move it around very quickly.
Do you think it's gonna rug? And I have this question for Onion too.
I don't get specifically in anything. So okay, so I would say the nature of separating a thing of physical value from a digital interaction, usually there becomes a discrepancy over time. This happens with mortgage-backed securities, right? Where, okay, you have something and people say, hey, I can repackage it and put new tranches. And that's one way to kind of dilute the value of it. And then they trade it around and repackage it again. So things like that will happen organically if it catches fire. The other thing is that people don't check back to the original asset. So, oh, the house burned down. How do you know it's still there? Is it still, in good repair? Things like that. So it'll go back to how do you verify that the gold's physically there? Has anyone actually checked? is it just a bunch of paper? People signed it, passed around, and insured it. Is that all it really is? Is there anything actually underneath it? So there's some other cases where you can go back and find out that this bank, um, they thought they had, let's say, silver sandbags inside of a warehouse, and they kind of on their books as such. And I think it was Chase. You can go check it out some years ago. And instead, all they had was a bunch of stone and some nickel and things like that. So huge discrepancy between what they thought they had, what they had on the books, what the value of it was versus what they actually had. And these are what you call legitimate sources.
Onion?
Um, I guess my take on the Solana thing would be I just don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to back gold on Solana. I understand maybe you have like certificates or whatever, but like just from like a risk management perspective, I just feel like it would be safer to just, isn't that the whole point of like a gold ETF, you know? Like I know I'm sounding like I'm going back in time here. I'm all about Bitcoin, Kaspa, sovereignty, self-custody. But if I were to own gold in some way, shape, or form, and I had to choose between Solana or an ETF, there's a lot more regulation protecting me. But I guess as KRCbot just kind of pointed out, um, something about sandbags and nickel, um, maybe like it's not, there's like dilution, I guess, that takes place between the actual asset and what's documented. So it's all garbage in my opinion. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Juan, what do you think, Juan?
Yeah, it sounds like all these layer two options to scale gold, and it hasn't worked. So I mean, and with what KRC brought up with the so universal basic income is UBI, right? And it makes sense, right? When they measure these basket of goods, like they're not, people aren't looking at what is in that, and they're not really seeing what's happening because most people are just distracted from stuff. But it just sounds like a whole manipulation to get people not to think, and to give Solana their money and to throw it in that. And it just, yeah, it definitely sounds like it's you're better off holding the actual asset. That's what, no, that's what people seem to not understand about any of this, right? Holding the asset is always going to be your best option. And then and and I have a question on this and see if anybody can answer, but like, didn't they talk about like auditing the gold in Fort Knox, and that just never really happened? And I've also heard about, like, think about how the price of gold right now. It's something like $4,300 an ounce. And that seems really low, right? Because there's so much paper gold out there. But in terms of like the actual value of gold. And so I could see that being repriced at any point in time, like having these governments come out and be like, all right, now gold is $20,000. Like, I see that happening. I don't know if anybody else follows that or understands what's going on there. But yeah, that's a question to the audience. Let's see what you guys think.
Go ahead, KRCbot. I saw you trying to speak.
Hey, I'm not the audience, but no, they're 100% going to reprice it. So you had to go back to the 1930s and get a legal holding, and you go out there and you just basically reprice it, and you're going to be able to put $6 trillion of fresh cash on the books. So yeah, you're going to do it.
Yeah, and that specifically speaks to what happened, right? So if people aren't aware of it was Executive Order 6102 done by Roosevelt, and it's when it was right after the Great Depression. Government was running out of money, and they made it illegal. It was illegal to hold gold. So gold had been priced at $20.67 an ounce for over, I want to say, 20, 30 years. And on I even know the dates here. So on April the 5th, 1933, they sent an announcement out that everybody had to turn in their gold in the US. And if you didn't, you would receive a $10,000 fine or something like 10 years in jail. And they gave the public until May 1st of 1933 to do that. So, the people that, and then here's what they did. So after they did that, they had the gold, and Roosevelt and them held it for about 8 9 months, and then they repriced the gold to $35 an ounce, and that was a way to inflate away the debt and rob people who held gold. So just go back and look at that. That I see happening all over again. Um, and it's a sad, sad thing, bro. So it's again, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes, and I see something like that playing out.
They did a rug pull.
Yeah,
We can't go 30 years without doing a rug pull. We did one then, and we're doing one now with the dollar.
yeah, it's a sad, sad thing. That's why it's important that we're having these conversations. Where whether you're listening live and you're not aware of that, just go back and look a little bit of history. Like it's pretty inevitable what's coming, and you just got to prepare yourself and look at things for how they're unfolding. Don't stay too distracted watching these dumbass programs that make you dumber. Like go out there and learn a little bit of history. It's like right in front of our faces.
You had mentioned, Juan, you mentioned how Rome fell, and you were kind of saying, why do you think it fell? And there's clear, obvious reasons, but then there's the subtle reasons, right? So, for instance, when I think of Rome falling, I think of the mathematicians who were killed,
Mm,
right? And that's not something that usually gets credited as why it fell, but I would put my money on that because there were a lot who were killed. Some were killed while they were writing proofs in the sand in the castles when the Romans killed them. Um, and they had views on infinity and irrational numbers and the square root of 2 and 0 and all of that. And imagine where we would be today if the Roman soldiers didn't do that. And it wasn't just them, but we can look at not just the soldiers, but those in charge. Pythagoras was known for killing anybody who brought up infinity because it went against God and what they viewed in theology at the time and all of that. And I think that had a big part of the fall of Rome. There were a lot of people, a lot
yeah,
of mathematicians
I
were
agree with
tortured
you.
to death.
I
Yeah.
I agree with that because they were truth seekers, and obviously mathematicians looking at numbers and figures and code sounds familiar to what's happening now, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're ostracizing when you're the small majority. Unfortunately, way back then, it cost you your life. You know, um, I'm very sensitive to that. Like that shit makes me sad when I read about this stuff and learn about it. Um, maybe some of that is my plant medicine journey and like me channeling a past life. I don't know, but yeah, I'm
Were
with.
you a mathematician?
I maybe I don't know. I, but it's like I feel so fucking much, man. It's pretty insane. But like when I read these stories, and I remember you sharing the story of Pythagoras and the number zero, and like when I read these stories, like I get really into my feelings with it, and it's fucking annoying sometimes. But it's because like I'm just there with it. I'm there energetically on that frequency, and it's very similar to like what's happening right now. It's like my life's pretty. My life's pretty cool. I'm good. I don't really need to do much if I don't want to. Right? It's like I could disappear, but this is just bigger than us, and truth seekers are needed, and people speaking the truth and asking questions. Again, I always give him a shout out, but I love Kaspa Onion because he just speaks facts, shows numbers, and then gets really pissed at people, and it's hilarious. Hilarious because like he's just way smarter than most people, and he's speaking truth. But yeah, I'm with you, Kara. There's amongst so many things that had Rome fall. I just think it really does. It's a Bitcoin saying, right, where they say fix the money, fix the world. But money touches everybody and everything. And what is money? It's an abstract form of our energy, of how we preserve our energy. So it's like if we don't have a free moving way of how to transfer our energy to each other, right? Then it's going to fuck everything up. And then when it's top down control, when it's people from a centralized, because that's essentially what happened to Rome, right? It's like these emperors they fucking took from their people, right? They were taking, and it's happening nowadays, just more subtly. They can't come and kill us for having ideas. They can ban us from speaking and ban our accounts and have me not comment on YouTube channels or YouTube comments. So it's just happening in a different form, right? But it's rhyming. It's rhyming with a lot of what's happened back then.
Yeah. Pythagoras, I just want to throw in, was Greek, not Roman, but
Okay.
Archimedes, he's the guy who was killed writing a proof. He was killed writing a proof. He was on the ground, had his finger in the sand, writing with his fingers during a siege, and he was killed for in the middle of doing that. It just blows my mind, and that happened in Rome. And Pythagoras, as we know, um, he had ordered the drowning of Hippasus. And there's so many. Katie, I don't want to go into that direction, but yeah, the fall of Rome. If you have too much truth, if you're seeking truth, if you're trying to discover something or prove something that people find unusual or scary or unfamiliar, it can have people have raw emotions and they react in all sorts of weird ways. And you had mentioned something earlier, Juan. You said something to the effect of people don't want us to think. And that made me remember something Candace Owens actually said just today or yesterday. She said that sometimes, well, not everybody, obviously, but some people can become so rich that they assume that no one should be allowed to think for themselves. That you can become so wealthy that people need permission to think for
Oh my
themselves.
God.
How dare they?
I've been around people like that. They are. I can't relate to them. I can be in the same room and like, oh my God, you're that is so spot on with some people, right? Because they've never experienced the other side of it, so that they can't relate to what it's like not having it, and they just think that there's just a certain, again, I don't even go to blaming people for being that way, because it's like, if you don't know something, how are you going to be able to relate to it? um but yeah, that's definitely how it is for some people. They can't, they just think their shit doesn't stink, or like for a long time I was a sales rep, a custom home sales rep for this alarm company, and like I would go into these crazy houses here in Miami, and my goodness, like some of the money that's here, and just the arrogance from some of these families. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then every now and then you get somebody who was an entrepreneur who came from nothing, and it's like, oh, that's pretty dope, that's pretty cool. So they're sprinkled around. But yeah, 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 I'm with you, Kara. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I want to say something with Onion. He he has been asking good questions to the right people, and he's getting people to think and get people to really think about why they have the views that they have. And Onion, if you're willing to share with us how you have created this approach because it's working. You're doing something, it's working. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. Are you asking like how do I like talk to the Bitcoin maxis?
You're getting people to think.
Oh, yeah. Let me think about this for a second. Oh yeah, someone asked me this recently. I think you may have commented on that thread. Um, Basically what I do is I just try to I guess I know the values of like what a Bitcoin maxi is because I've been one myself. And the values that are close to home is like self-custody, sovereignty, decentralization, right? Like y'all know the basics. And when I talk with these Bitcoin maxis, I noticed that when I start by bringing up Kaspa, they don't care. So instead, I try to meet them with like where they're at. I ask them questions that kind of force them into a box to acknowledge that the things that they value, like self-custody, I try to kind of force it in a box in a way, like the framing of the question that they need to recognize that the stuff that they value is at risk. Um, and two things happen. They either address it, which never happens, or they deflect and name call. And that's usually what happens. And then from there, it's very easy to like talk to them because they're like retarded, you know? But yeah, that's just kind of been my approach. Just kind of see their values, listen to their values, see what they value. Usually, there's not a whole lot of listening that has to happen because we're all like Bitcoin maxis. But the idea is just listen, try to learn what their values are, and then meet them with where they're at, and then say, hey, your values are actually being jeopardized. Here's a, it's, I guess it's just basic sales 101 in a way. Like, do you have a problem? And then, oh, well, here's a solution, you know? But a lot of times people don't even know that there's a problem. So you kind of have to like do the thinking for them, I guess. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But that's kind of how I try to frame my stuff, unless I'm just completely shitting on someone. There are a very few people I've just completely given up on, and then I just cyberbully them. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's amazing, Onion. Thank you for saying it that way. Putting it into a box, having them assess the risk. That's a good way of looking at it. KRCbot, I want to ask you on this too, because you're in a position where you're also having to get people to think, especially people who are still learning about what you do and the value that it brings. And there's been people with their assumptions and they're entitled to their viewpoint, but you have yourself have had this need to get them to understand you. So how do you get people to think? Is it all about putting facts in front of them, or is there something else that I'm missing here?
Oh, wow. So yeah, let's unpack that. Getting people to think, that's not always easy. But putting something in front of them, I think that's important. So that's something I think it's easier to show than explain. And so it's more important to do that type of activity. So let's give that some meat on the bone. Um, I really like Caspa. I really like the network. I really like the layer one, and I really want it to succeed. And to do that, first you need to understand how far you can go with it. So Crypto Odie can speak a little bit to this, but he was curious, and a lot of other people were curious too. We say things like it can go this fast in theory. It can do this many transactions in a day in theory. It can, have this many active addresses in theory. And when you go back to Onion's, talking points, I've been there too. It's like, yeah, but show me the proof, right? And so one day you kind of wake up and you're like, well, why not? Why not go ahead and get people together and prove the theory can be real? And then the other thing is, push that a little bit. So this isn't about being disrespectful. No, you reach out to the core dev and say, okay, have you tested this? No. Has anyone ever tried it before? No. Do other people claim to be the best and the fastest and all these things? Yeah. Do they have some evidence? Absolutely. But we claim to be better. Yeah. Do we have any evidence? No. Why don't we do something about it? Right. And so when you do those things, some people can get upset because to find out, having the question and then find out the answer, you might break things. So for example, when a joint effort went ahead and you do over 150 million transactions in a day, you know what happened? A lot of the nodes weren't able to keep up, and for example, the exchanges, the wallets were under maintenance. So it causes some issues. But the thing is that until we tried, you didn't know exactly where those choke points were. But now that we did try, we actually don't have just a theory. We actually have like a bounding box. And B, you have a little bit of data behind it. So it's a little bit scientific. You can say, oh, look, I can prove something. And C, now you can say, okay, I know how to fix it. Now, in the process of doing this, Kaspa has this promise where it can do 600 times the amount of transactions in the time of Bitcoin. But in the time where some of these things were being made 2 or 3 years ago, they weren't made to scale to 10 blocks per second, and definitely not 100 blocks per second. So we have a lot of smart people. The theory is there, but some of the underlying technologies for indexing and reporting don't keep up. So by doing some of these things, you're like, okay, this thing is really meant for sequencing at scale, but is. So, okay, this thing's going to be really good for that. Let's try it. Let's take something, a really big problem that's going to be really meaningful. Let's apply it and see if it actually can do that thing that people have the theory for. And then it has to be worthwhile. Otherwise, you're spending thousands of dollars for no end. So what happens is that if you don't have the right tools, if you don't have the right lens, if you don't understand what the goals are, all you see is a lot of stuff going across the screen. It's just really busy, right? It looks like, oh, you're just running around with your head cut off. But why would you spend thousands, 5,000, $10,000 doing this just for no purpose, right? So some people, because their frame of reference is their own, their thinking is their own, their perception is their own, and someone else created a worldview for them to look through a glass years ago, that's the only thing they can see. So training someone to look at things differently can be hard because it's not necessarily obvious.
Oh,
Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, go ahead, Onion.
I just have a quick question about the nodes that you brought up. Um, was there an issue with Kaspa, or was it an issue with like the exchanges or wallets? I'm not sure about all that. Are you cool sharing on that?
Yeah, yeah. So, like indexers, for example. So, different types of things store different things. Specifically, if I want to get into it, it would be um, the database. So, this isn't necessarily a Caspa problem. This would be like a Postgres problem. So, when you get into it, yeah, Postgres is fine as an object storage database, generally speaking. But you have to optimize it for time series database. And then some people even have to shard it. And so now there's architectural type things when you start scaling to millions. And so by processing a lot of data, which is a lot, is what does that mean? If I say 5% of what Caspa can do, right? That's not really a lot if you really think about it. But even doing 5% of what Caspa can do continuously, these databases are slowing down. An example of that would be like Cas Under, right? So if you go to Cas Under and you type in TBDAI and you find about 30 million transactions there, you're going to see it goes really, really slowly. So what does that mean? I wouldn't say that doing transactions for a network that's meant to do transactions times 20 is a problem. I would say that the database that is sucking in the information after it's been indexed and sequenced needs to be revisited and adjusted and things like that. So that's part of the stuff I'm going through. But people are getting angry with proving that the system can do what the system should do and gathering the proof and the evidence that the system can do it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that there can be some confusion. You produce tools and people use the tools, and while you're doing these other things, other people have fun too. And the thing is that it's a distributed network, and other people can do things. So it's perfectly fine. I mean, so we have some other people that are doing things on the network, but when you see one thing, what happens is they might use it as an opportunity to do their own thing, and then people conflate the two. So the thing is that I understand concerns with like holder counts and things like that, but TDAI, a holder is a trading mechanism, but a wallet is a cryptographic address where you can store value, but you can also store data. In the terms of what I'm doing both. Um, I would say with Bitcoin, right, that they don't believe in spam. That's where the whole knots thing comes from. You're saying all I will do is keep track of basically ones and zeros. I believe it's like, hey, we can actually approve or deny and authenticate data. And if you look at things like Cassia as an example, it's a message, it's data. More important. If you look at social media and things like that, it's very important to people. It's very dear to them. Be able to communicate from point A to point B, be able to do it securely, and it comes at a network cost. But you wouldn't go ahead and say that's abusive. You just say, hey, that's just data going across a chain. But to be able to scale it and test it, it's something we have to do. It's just something that must be done.
So just curious, are you saying that the main issue is not Caspa? Caspa is actually like super fast and it works perfectly. Are you saying that the issue is the sources that are trying to put together the information after Caspa's done a bunch of stuff really fast? Is that kind of where the choke point is?
Yeah, what we're talking about is data storage and recollection. So when you sequence something, you're able to say, okay, is this right? Is this wrong? And that determination is very, very quick. And then so you're going back to the node and you're saying, okay, I would like to parse this message and I'd like to store this message and I'd like to put it somewhere. The process of me getting out the message and putting it somewhere, that has a little bit of overhead. But if you want to keep on putting a lot of those something somewhere, then you have to figure out how to do that. Now, if you increase the rate of storage and the amount of storage, guess what? The consumption rates can get really, really high. Now, if you're able to do, let's say, 2,500 or 3,500 message per second, and you keep at it for a sustained period of time, you're going to have millions and millions and millions of records. And can that database do that? So if you have something like, let's say, MySQL, and you put 18 million records into a single table, you're going to lose about 60% of your performance. So it's really coming down to choosing how you store things. And then the next thing is, okay, now that you stored it, how easy and quick is it for you to recall and get the stuff back out of it? Can you report on it? Because ultimately, when you go to CASA, FYI, and things like that, you're trying to get the data back out. And so I think one of the bigger issues here is that you have to design a system that can keep up with this really fast sequencer, but then you have another challenge is that you can really maybe afford to do maybe 1% of it. So you'd have to redesign your system, for when it upgrades. It's not just, okay, let me upgrade the website. No, you might have to redesign some of those database connections and technologies, the underpinning, so to speak. And the other thing is for that processing, because let's be clear. If let's say all of Caspa was doing its current load for testing purposes, and keep in mind it all has purpose. I'm doing 20 times the amount of that, right? And so if you're processing it and there's a cost to your processing, that means your processing overhead also increased by 20x.
Wow. So I guess you're basically saying that I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, that like when these exchanges and stuff kind of went under temporarily or were paused with the Caspa speed test, um, basically Caspa was just way too fast for them to be able to even keep up with that data because of kind of everything that you just mentioned. Is that kind of the idea? Like they have to make new technology to literally sequence and capture all this stuff correctly? Is that kind of the idea?
I wouldn't say that's the exchange. I would say that, the nodes have to be up to date and they also have to have the right resources on there. So when you're running a private node and you have a lot of stuff going on, like what we're doing, you're trying to do P2P traffic with everyone else. Now, this was one of those like things I was getting into is that I'm running a bunch of servers. I have 6 public servers and they have various degrees of resources. One on the bottom side is 12 gigs, and then on the of RAM, and on the top side has 64 gigs of RAM. So across the board. And the idea was during this is okay, someone a smart guy went ahead and said, hey, I can run this on a Raspberry Pi, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't know if you can do Crescendo on a Raspberry Pi and keep up with everything under full load. And when we compare notes, he's not getting as much traffic as I am, and I'm like, okay, there's something that doesn't make sense here. So what it comes down to is configuration. If you're going to be a main hub that things are connecting to during a high spike time frame, what you'd also see is the PNN nodes, which is public, that also exchanges might connect to if they're not running their own dedicated one. Those were under a heavy load, and some of those were falling over too. So, in the process of doing this, one of the call to actions that I was really pushing for is that we don't have enough public nodes on the network. So when you're sub 200 nodes, and other proof of work chains can be greater than 15,000, you're like, okay, there's a little bit of a gap here, and we might need a little bit more resiliency, and we might need better specs. So in the process of doing this, for example, the minimum recommendations might be, okay, you can get away with so much RAM, but then when you look at the specs of the CPU versus the RAM, you're using 100% of the RAM for 50% of the CPU. So what does that really mean? It means that the thing that's going to be the choke point was the RAM. So what you really need to do is change the specs and say, listen, double the RAM, CPU is fine, and now that thing can max out all the way to let's say 200 million records in a day roughly. Cool. But these are the things you have to do. It's not just theory, it's now a reality.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically, you're just saying, if you want to be more useful, I guess, to the Kaspa network, it makes sense to have a public node that has high specs for another instance with like high traffic. Like, I guess it needs the physical hardware to be able to do that, I guess.
So this is where some minds might vary, right? So like I'll give you an example. I put a Docker container, and I took an intentional approach to hook into nodes, P2P nodes that would have more resources. And the rationale is this, is that if you grab a random partner, you could take up to a data sync. But if I wanted to launch 20 nodes and I had an intentional partner with more resources, it could sync up within half an hour, right? So the danger in that would be someone could say, well, do you trust that partner? Things like that. Is it really secure? What about privacy? Things like that. I'm like, yeah, that's all fair. The other bit is that if I just want to launch 20 nodes at an expedited rate, you choose your partner, you download it very quickly, and then after that, you can reconfigure it to be very generic. And then after that, it doesn't matter. So, to each your own. But if you leave the config there, it's up to you, right? You can have that choice, really transparency. But most over is actually say that what we're actually saying is true. So I don't want to sit there and have an argument with a Bitcoin maxi without actually saying something that I know is 100% true. It can't just be like secondhand knowledge. I have to know it, and I think that's the difference. So you have to have some truth behind it. That's it.
Thank you for that. If I can, Onion, I know you wanted to say something, but I also wanted to take what KRCbot said and kind of segue it into something that Juan and I had been talking about earlier. So first of all, KRCbot has a good point. If you know the information and it's not just something that you're repeating, right, but something that you can just go further and deeper on, I think that's really key there. So thank you for saying that. I also want to just bring up something that we had mentioned when we were talking about what we were going to speak about on the show, which is the fact that CryptoK had stopped with cast.fyi, and we lost that block explorer for a while, and now it's gone, right? And we've been moving people into the direction of caspa.stream, which is a great, accurate block explorer to my knowledge. But I only know that because KRCbot told me that, hey, these transactions are accurate, but I didn't actually know, right? So I had to refer to someone who knew more about that than me. But then today I read a tweet from Izio who had concerns about Caspa.stream because it's not open source. And that brings me to the segue here, but I kind of want to mention something while I'm on Caspa.stream before segueing into the Block Explorer that KRCbot is building, as well as the one that Wolfie and Caspa Media are going to be funding as well. So I just want to look at Caspa.stream and just mention, just while being on the topic, that they have a lot of similar stats and things we can look up that Cast.fyi did. So we can look up top addresses, hash rate, price, transactions per second, all of that. It's there. I don't know what's not there. KRCbot would probably know more about that. However, one thing that was there that I don't recall ever seeing on Cast.fyi was the Mara tag for the Marathon wallet, which is the number 35 or number 36 wallet on Kaspa.stream that has 54 million Kaspa. And when I looked into that wallet, as of today, there's 10 tokens that are in their wallet that are on the, I don't know if they're all on the layer 2, but they're all tokens of some kind. And
Yeah.
the only ones that I'm familiar with that are not necessarily airdropped were the Crumbs tokens, 10,000 of them that apparently were claimed earlier this year through the gasless claiming procedure through the Crumpet Media distribution wallet. That being said, I don't know how they found the Mara wallet, but I'm just assuming it is the wallet because the tag is there. So, KRCbot, when you said don't talk about things unless you know it, how would I know that that tag is accurate if it's not an open source explorer? Just, I'm curious.
So the APIs. So let me walk back a little bit. Super Typo, the creator of Caspa Stream, there is like an OG developer in the space and has been creating Docker instances for everyone, so everyone kind of relies on those. Even Casa FYI did. So you have indexers, you have everything. So I linked it to in a recent post. So that's what he's been doing. In terms of the APIs and things like that, I'm able to kind of reverse engineer some of it and validate it. So, for example, some of the information is coming from Caspa Explorer, and I'm able to validate which, this goes to that. Some is coming from CoinGecko, some of it's coming from KNS, some of it's coming from Casplex with the KRC20, some of it's coming from Casper with the KRC 721, some of it's coming from Caspa Com, and then also I think one of his own things, which is the Caspa nodes. So in other words, I can source all of the data sources. So if there's something that's off, then we can say, oh, it's coming from this thing. Okay. So even though the code might not be open source, the destinations are known. And then you can compare and contrast. You can say, oh, it's the same thing as the thing there because it's reaching out for it. And that's just kind of like a health check. So on my end, I'm able to kind of do the same thing, except for the differences that I can reach out to the same places and I can actually produce the code where people can research and understand how it works. But in terms of the interface I'll put out there is I'm adding an explainability. So that way you can say, okay, this is the provider of the data. So if you're using the external version, right, this is where the data is coming from, and this is what the data looks like. I think that's important, and as a result, people will be able to rely on it. And if something is wrong, then you can say, okay, this is where it's wrong and why it's wrong, and then we can go back to the source and fix it.
Is it open source?
The one I'm making is so I'm pretty close. I would say for the layer one thing, I'm finishing up some KRC 721 stuff. So what that involves is I'm working on the IPFS gateways, which is the decentralized storage to get the NFT images into the ecosystem. But the rest of it's all wired in. So I already have the Caspa layer one stuff. I already have the CoinGecko. I already have the KNS. I already have Casplex with the KRC20. I already have Caspacom stuff. I already have the Caspa nodes. So all I have is hopefully tonight, maybe tomorrow, to wrap up um, the NFT stuff, and then we can get the first demo. It's very alpha put out there, get some feedback, make some additions, improvements, and go from there. The thing I've been obsessing over here a little bit is the rankings. I know people are going to take that very personally. It's not something you take lightly, um, but that's the consideration there is okay, the alignment. And what I think that should happen are two things. One is that the alignment should get closer to CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, and then the other thing is to provide additional views, which is again closer to those, and then give some evaluation guidance. That way, people align with the right incentives, and then that will hopefully give some additional opportunity for our ecosystem to be healthy and then grow and do those things. So that's really the hope of the outcome. It's not to insult anyone or anything like that. So I'm sure there will be some fine tuning and feedback, but we'll make best effort to make sure it's the right way and it's explainable. I think that's the most important part. Over.
Awesome. Juan, thank you for posting his Floss Explorer in progress at the top. Juan has pinned that. Juan, if you want to say anything here before I throw in a question about the VProgs ready built or the VProgs, I'll ask a question about that with the upcoming Explorer, but I want to hear if there's anything you want
No. I'm
to
loving
go
this. I'm
into.
loving sitting back and learning from KRCbot and hearing the back and forth. We hadn't for the first probably 8, 9 episodes pinned anything, so this is pretty cool that I'm going through the speakers' profiles. I pinned what Kaspa Onion had also said on how he approaches people. So if anybody wants to follow that, so yeah, I'm just pinning up to the screen what the speakers are working on. So KRC bots, it looks like Foss is what his Explorer is called. So check it out. Make sure that you're following them. And that's it. No, I'll let you continue on.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, thank you for pinning that. Uh, so when I read what Wolfie had written about, um, he's going to be working, I guess, with CaspaMedia.com to hire a developer to make a block explorer that will be ready to handle whatever VProgs brings. I'm just curious because I don't know exactly what that means because KRCbot, I know you're building this other explorer and you're highly intelligent. So my first instinct is, oh, well, whatever you do is going to be ready for VProgs too. So do you know anything that makes yours different than this upcoming one that could be coming, or are they going to be completely different? I mean, what are we looking at here? Because this is more your field.
This is a left-hand, right-hand situation. So I started working on this just because I thought it was necessary to have an alignment with Caspa in terms of, um, you know, the ethos that, listen, people should be able to run their own stuff, see their own code, analyze it, um, not have censorship, understand it, interrogate it, things like that. So I think that's kind of the driving factor. And then, if 10 other people want to make one, then more the merrier. It's kind of like having more nodes of the network. It's a good thing. And then whatever is the best is the best, and you hope that it's worthwhile and it's adding value. So that's it. So I'm just gonna do a quick recording here. That way people can kind of get a quick status update here, and then you can kind of go through that. But there's a good amount of work done, which is I think going to be really helpful, and I'm hoping people will appreciate it. We'll see.
I think it's really exciting to see what's happening. Is yours not comparing it, but just looking at yours, are you looking into what VProgs will have, and does it affect what you can or can't put on your Explorer? Because I don't know how that works underneath the hood. Uh,
Uh, so
hmm.
the VProgs might take a year for them to kind of get to where they want to be, but the covenants might be a little bit faster. The covenants, the way I understand it so far, is that they'll be closer to getting something like KRC20 into native, where you wouldn't necessarily need the indexer. And so that would be exciting, and that would be completely compatible. and that'd be definitely interesting to see. As far as migrating it and things like that, I don't think there'd be a big rush into it for everyone. I think like most things, you give a little bit of time and test it out, and then when you're happy, you can make the adjustment.
What do you mean by it doesn't need an indexer?
Well, so I think that's been one of the challenges, is that you have to go find a payload and extract a payload and store a payload, and um, uh, that is a separate one-off rather than just going through the existing blocks. But what you would run into with something like that is probably something more like full nodes. I'd have concern about the amount of storage in general. So one of the personal things I'm looking at is how to basically offload data before it expires or round robins on the node. So that's just one of my personal things, because I like the long-term storage durability and the lookup and the analysis part, for data science type people and AI and asking questions and RAGs and all those wonderful geeky things. But we'll find out.
Is offloading synonymous with pruning?
So your basic node is going to quote unquote prune no matter what. Just think of it like a DVR with a video recording, and your drive is going to run out eventually. So you have 30 days, and then it starts writing over itself. We just do that a lot faster, with more data. So fewer days. Um, uh, I run bigger drives and customize the settings so it looks back more. I think if you look at like Cats Under, for example, and Kaspa Analytics, they might run back like 10 days. So people customize this. But a full archival node, you'd want all the information. And the consideration is, if you want to get to 100 blocks per second, you're looking at definitely north of a few hundred terabytes a year if you're filling up all the blocks and the information. So that's not something you put on a Raspberry Pi, but we're not there yet. And again, that also assumes the blocks aren't getting smaller. So that Coder stuff said, listen, we'll probably make the blocks smaller, so it might not be that big, but it'd still be considerable.
Wow. You are a wealth of information. Onion, I saw you having some reactions there. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I was just laughing when he said very casually, that's not something you put on a Raspberry Pi. That was all. um, I do actually have a question. I heard you mentioned coder of stuff. I remember Michael Sutton and someone else that were, I think it was in the Discord. I'm just curious if you know anything on this. They were talking about 100 blocks per second, and there was a discussion going on whether they keep the block size the same for 100 blocks per second, or if they reduce the block size, so like the storage is the same, but we just have more blocks, mainly for like just speed, I guess, latency. I think this is what allows for real-time decentralization. I barely understand it, but I'm just curious, do you know the benefits of if Kaspa launches like within the next few updates, the next fork or whatever? There's probably a chance, I guess my question is, there's a chance we do 100 blocks per second with smaller blocks to keep the network the same storage size for all the nodes, or there's a chance we do 100 blocks per second but keep the same block size, but then it's the situation of like 200 terabytes a year. I'm just curious, do you know what both of those situations would allow for, I guess?
I would think you would probably go with a smaller one, which is what Coder of Stuff was alluding to. That way, you wouldn't run into people and resource issues from a hardware standpoint. And then over time, when it's necessary, you would expand upon the block size. That's a yes. So I'd have to go back and get confirmation, but that's basically my read on the situation. When I was looking at, for example, Terranode, where they're saying, hey, we can do a lot. What they were doing is that they're trying to make these supersized blocks where you're doing gigs of stuff, and it has to do with performance. So when you take something and you divide it down into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, you still have the same overhead. So you have inputs and outputs per second. And if you're running on hardware, You know, writing really small files very rapidly, um, it, it it's not as efficient as bundling up a bunch of things and then pushing through something bigger. I'll give you an example. If you were to take a million small files on your computer and try to copy them over the network to your NAS, or if you were to just take something the same size as like a movie file and try to move it, which one would take longer? And most people who've moved a lot of files or a big one locally would probably have the answer there. They say a lot of small ones, right? And the reason why with that is, at least from a user perspective, is first you have to index it. You have to keep track of all the files. You have to take that inventory. You have to send each one. You have to confirm each one. And then you go through that entire process. And it's a lot more than just taking that one big file and sending it across. So the same is across the system with most files and most systems. Now, there's different ways of breaking that down and speed it up. But what it would come down to is to not break everyone, the people involved. I think you would opt for the smaller blocks, and then you would raise the size over time.
Damn, thank you so much for being able to explain all that. You're a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate it. So I guess I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. Are you basically saying, so remember the example you gave about like a bunch of files versus one file? Is that the same as like 10 blocks versus 100 blocks? Like, does 100 blocks per second make it easier, assuming the block sizes are reduced to keep the storage, do we benefit from that?
Yeah, I think of a block as just a group of information or files together. That's a really simplistic way. Um, Underneath it might be RocksDB, right? And then what happens is it's organizing transactions. And then sometimes it says, actually, that's not accepted. And then it reorganizes it. So you have to have a level of finality. And once it's finalized, then you basically it's good to go. But let's say you get past all that and just say, okay, um, I want to send you one big file. That would be better and faster, but you're going to have to wait longer, right? Because why? You need to get all the small things inside that one big file to fill up before I send it to you. So that means we're going to have to wait longer in between those sessions. But if we have a lot of things frequently, I can start sending them to you immediately with less delay. So one of the big things is speed, right? So if we're saying, hey, we want to be the fastest, well, waiting a really long time to gather a really big amount of information doesn't necessarily make sense. So right now we're not filling up um, uh, 10 blocks per second. So if you're going to 100 blocks per second, you could scale down the size significantly and still not fill them up. What you could do is what I'm currently doing now is try to process more information. And then what we would do is be able to do a lot more transactions per second and still not necessarily fill them up. So what we need to do is get a lot more people involved. Let's say doing something like this, but get 20 other industrial type applications going. And then you would have a chance to hack away at some of those TPS requirements. But right now, the network is grossly underused. And should it be used to full performance, some of the choke points, seemingly, at least to me so far, would be the storage. And that just comes down to bigger nodes and better indexers and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping to work on right now.
So right now you have 6 nodes, right? Do you plan on having any more?
Um, so I have about 556 computers in the household right now. I have a small data center. We'll see. Whatever is necessary. So we'll figure it out.
But such a small number of nodes for so many computers.
Yeah, it's IPs. So each one needs an IP address. So either I have to go out there and get like a C block of IPs and do a bunch of reverse proxies or something. But I don't have a lot of public IPs that I can use towards it.
See, that was my next question is it hard or difficult to assign an IP to each one of them, or is that just out of the question? I don't know how that works.
It's less of a hard to do thing and more of just a, like most things, you just pay for it, right? So you go out there and you can license them and things like that. So maybe I could reach out to a buddy at a data center and say, hey, do you what would it cost for you to get a C block or something and try to figure it out. But I haven't gotten that far.
Because that would add almost 600 new nodes to the network. I'm just saying that would be really huge.
Yeah, it has crossed my mind, but the other part of it is pushback. If you go ahead and you have someone that puts up 600 nodes by themselves, then you get some feedback about centralization of data and control of it and things like that too. So again, you need to you think that you're doing something good, but in the process of doing something good, you can also cause some friction. So it's not always good to just go full force. It might be good to do exactly what you're saying, but to do it over time when, for example, you're not more than 10%. So if you have 6,000 nodes and you're 10%, then it probably won't be a friction point. But if you have 923 nodes, actually, let me see. Let's see. Okay, 919, and you went in there and you added, 556. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people react, but it might not be as friendly as you think.
That's a good point. Please don't centralize Kaspa.
We don't need the turtle NFT to be 30% of our nodes.
Oh, that would be horrible. Now
Well, here's the thing. I have sometimes a little bit of a sense of humor, especially when I, don't sleep enough. So I could imagine one day waking up just for a day, just say, hey, let's see if we could turn on 500 nodes and put a turtle on the map just to do it for a day. But I think people would be kind of angry about it too. But I think it'd be fun.
You could nuke Kaspa. What you could do is put up 600 nodes, let the price tank, buy up more Kaspa, and then turn off the nodes.
Well, it wouldn't have a price impact. So you're not impacting the hash rate in any way, shape, or form. It's a proof of work, right? But what someone could say is, listen, you might be able to find something nefarious by let's say you're a bad actor and you were able to control the backplane of communication. You might be able to do something there. I haven't really explored it, but I imagine that probably wouldn't be great if, let's say, a state actor went ahead and put it up, 100,000 nodes, and everyone was listening to them, and they put something out there, and I imagine they could do something.
Juan, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm a fly on the wall, so you guys keep going at it.
Juan right now is setting up 500 nodes without telling us.
Yeah, and then KRCbot will go in competition with Juan.
Yeah, we're having secret
more.
combos behind. Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening.
So I see Crypto Odie in here. Odie, you were name checked earlier. You're welcome to request to speak. KRCbot had mentioned you when he was talking about how we get people to think. And sometimes it's just a matter of asking people, has this been tried? Oh, well, then let's try it. And you helped lead the whole force on the world record for the most transactions in one day, which I believe is around 158 million. If you feel like talking about that or shedding any light, I don't know if you want to speak today, but it would be cool to hear some of your thoughts on any of this, especially the results from that and anything that still needs to be looked at. I remember hearing that Michael Sutton wanted to do something because of that record, because of the stress test. It led him to want to do some improvements. So if you feel like bringing that up or talking about it, feel free to come up. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
He just commented that he can't right now.
Okay, well, I had to at least check
Yeah, we
because,
did. We
wow.
did. We haven't heard from Odie in a long time. It's great to see him. But yeah, he just left a comment that he can't get on right now. He
Very
loves it
cool.
though. He says he loves everything that he's hearing.
We,
Oh, that's wonderful.
Odie's a G.
So are you, Onion. You're a G. I have seen you go toe to toe with these people, and recently I think you lost your cool and called them a fiat cuck in honor of Kaspa Warrior. Uh, the things that you say to people to try to meet them where they're at, as you call it. Uh, I just love it.
Thank you, thank you. I'm not proud of it, but someone has to do it, so fuck it.
Every
But
now
see, that's the
every now and
thing. We don't all. Oh, wait, yeah, go ahead, Juan.
no, no, I was just gonna say, I was just gonna comment on that, right? It's like we've got all sides of the onion. That's the whole point of the onion. He peels back the layers. He gives us a little taste of the nice guy, and then he comes with the facts, and then he makes us laugh. You know, he's an onion. I mean, this is what he's supposed to do. So we love it. We love all sides of it.
Yay, thank y'all. Y'all are awesome. I appreciate it. Y'all are too kind.
Yeah, I learned so much from you. But what I really like, Onion, is that before you start doing any name calling, you avoid doing that. You actually, I've kind of noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm kind of picking up on a formula that you have. It starts with saying, "Hey man, good point, good point. I like what you say. I agree with what you say. I agree with this. I agree with that." And then you start by giving some compliments. "You're a legend, dude. I look up to you, bro. You're a hero, my man." And you say all these wonderful things, and you're like, "Hey." And I've had a lot of Bitcoin. I've been there. I got the, I'm in this. I got the money. And then you go, "Okay, but here's the deal." And then you start to just throw in your little crumbs and nuggets of, "Have you considered this perspective? Because I have, and I've done the numbers, and let me tell you." And that's when you get them. So yeah, I love that approach, and it's just so good. And you only start going into the name calling when they just show that they're not cool, bro. And then you're going, "You fiat cuck." Shut the fuck up. You
Have to defend him because it only comes out when he gets disrespected. But speaking of exactly what you're talking about with his approach in the beginning. By the way, I was a sales trainer for years, and the first thing you teach people that don't understand the process of how to, so people think like, how do you convince somebody, or how can you level with somebody to get them to listen before there is even a chance of you getting your point across. The first step is, it's called building rapport and acknowledging their side of things. So the fact that he meets people where they're at, that's sales 101. That's the art of being in a conversation and being able to communicate freely in a conversation is you just acknowledge their side of things. And here's the reason Onion is so good at like, I love listening to I listened to your YouTube video today. Well, I mean, you put up a space, a little rant, is because of the approach. Is because it's so relatable. And again, he brings hard concrete facts. But yeah, that's it, Kara. Like, it reminds me of how I would teach these people on how to relate to somebody and how to talk to someone. We all do it, whenever you want something, you're sitting there, you gotta agree and understand the other side of it before you can even speak on anything. And yeah, you're doing a really good job with that, Onion. So
Thank y'all.
appreciate that.
I was
Yeah.
I was cracking up when y'all was sharing. It's very funny. I'll just go in a little bit to lean in more to what y'all are saying. My strategy is I just realized like these Bitcoiners, they hate anything that's not Bitcoin. Like they hate it. Except for the Lightning Network. Um, and I just feel like um along with like crypto, there's all these stereotypes. They have all these beliefs that aren't theirs. They just, for whatever reason, one reason or another. And I myself, I that was me at one point, right? So in a weird way, I'm able to relate to them because I kind of know what it's like to be a Bitcoin maxi and not really research anything and just watch Sailor compilations, right? Like it's very easy to be a retard, and I'm still one. But the thing is that um, I guess I my approach is I try to start out just being like, hey, I come in peace, I come in peace. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin, and then usually like okay if they're down to chat about Bitcoin, I just gauge or how willing are they to actually talk about Bitcoin. And you can very quickly tell they start name calling you or they start I'll ask questions about Bitcoin and then they'll just say, oh well, Caspa's a shitcoin. It's like, well, hold on, buddy. Like, I'm not talking to you about Caspa. I even will tell them, I'm like, yeah, Caspa's a shitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin. I don't know why they're bringing up Caspa. My questions were about Bitcoin, right? So there's all these like tactics that they I don't know, it's just deflection. It's like they will do anything they can to avoid thinking. It's uncomfortable to change your beliefs, I think. And the Bitcoin narrative is really nice and easy to follow. And you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, uh, I, my understanding is I think a lot of people have been burned by shitcoins. And so eventually, when they do become a Bitcoin maxi, there's just they put up all these walls to it's like a promise to themselves to never go back to shitcoining. And then, I show up as a shitcoin in their eyes, and I understand that they want nothing to do with me. And so I kind of have to a lot of shitcoin. I used to watch like some altcoin channels at some point, and they don't represent the same values as Bitcoin. So I kind of have to show like, hey, I come in peace. I have the same values as you. I believe in what you believe in. I just have a couple questions that are unanswered about Bitcoin. Let me pick your brain. Let me try to maybe you can educate me on Bitcoin, right? Like I even throw in that, like, hey, like prove me wrong. I want to learn. Like maybe I'm an idiot. Like so I try to have this approach of like, let's talk about Bitcoin. These are some questions I have, some risks that I see in Bitcoin that no one's addressing. And I usually have to explain all the risks too, because usually half the time they don't know anything. They don't even know what hash rate is. So I have to like kind of explain stuff prior to even asking questions. So I have to explain Bitcoin to them. And then after doing that, they shut me down. And then if I see multiple times in a row that they're not willing to learn, they're not interested, I guess if I get the vibe that they don't want to defend Bitcoin and they're not even curious about Bitcoin, the thing that they hold, the thing that their identity is tied to, that's when I go after them and that's when I will tell them to go fuck themselves and I will just, do what I got to do, right? That's maybe it's good or bad. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. But that's my approach to um, spreading Caspa.
Onion, I really don't think I'm even here if you don't ask that question that you asked during the debates, which was, would any of you guys put $100,000 on a lightning channel? I did not understand the question when you asked it either. So I would have been like, well, yeah, I guess. Or what did they say? No, no. I'm like, well, why did they say no?
Yeah,
So listen, bro, like I'm not speaking up. I'm not even on Twitter or X, whatever. I'm not here if so you're speaking for a lot of the people that like I do consider myself a thinker, but I held Bitcoin because I saw it go up and down as much as I did, and I just held it, man. So it's it's hilarious and entertaining how you come at people, but the education that you're giving people, obviously I know quite a bit. I've dove even deeper into it, but it's interesting, right? It's like there are people out there just like I was who held Bitcoin as long as I did, and they literally don't. And I've used some of your questions and how you go about it with some of the people, and it's just it's insane. It's insane that and I tie it to people being very attached to their narratives and they're protecting their bag. It's human nature to do what they're doing. But dude, your approach and how you've improved it and how you go about it, it's awesome, man. It's awesome to see. And you're definitely helping a lot of people. And I definitely have to give you credit, bro, because I don't think I'm speaking up if you're not on that debate. Well, you and Nakasomo have had a lot to do with me being like, oh, they're just like me. They're just like me. And there was so much. I had to go back and listen to that debate so many times. Yeah, and I'm just grateful for that, bro. So just keep at it, man. Keep having fun. This is what the world needs right now. People educating the way you are.
Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. I look up to you as well in so many other ways. So, you keep doing you. You're literally spreading Kaspa peer-to-peer electronic cash everywhere you go. So
That's all I'm good for right now, bro. So
awesome.
that
That's even better, man. That's even better.
yeah. But I love having KRCbot up here. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he hasn't been on the show in a while, but even some of the stuff that you guys are going back and forth. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this and just like have it at home. But I appreciate um, you guys coming up and sharing your knowledge, man. Because like again, it's super important for us to learn this and spread it as much as we can. And yeah, I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't know everything, and that's unfortunately the angle that a lot of these Bitcoiners come from. That like they're smart, but they just don't want to think any further. They don't want to go any deeper and ask the questions. And you bring up some questions that are fucking challenging, right? And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's just it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Also, I just want to bring up one more thing. The questions I bring up are actually like genuine questions that Kaspa has forced me to think about. When I was a Bitcoiner, I never.
100%.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, I was gonna say 100%. I thought I was on mute. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, you're good, you're good. No, 100%, exactly. Why is it that this random shitcoin's forcing me to think about all these things about Bitcoin? I've never had to do that when I was only in the Bitcoin world. But something I just want to point out is that I kind of feel isolated in a way, or at least maybe insecure in my own beliefs, because when I was in Bitcoin, it's very easy to have conviction, um, because you can just look at YouTube videos, there's compilations, there's so much knowledge that's above the surface. There's nothing really beneath the surface. From my experience, just you know, on YouTube, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's very easy to be a Bitcoin maxi because there's an abundance of people telling you how to think. And for me personally with Caspa, this is the first time I'm really ever actually kicking the tires. So this is new to me. I don't really this I genuinely, these questions I have, I just add up numbers on Bitcoin and I'm like, oh shit, this doesn't look like it adds up. This looks scary. And all of these questions I have was when I had all my money in Bitcoin. So, and these are real risks, and I'm just like, well, what the hell? Why would I be holding Bitcoin if this thing? Anyway, it started looking risky, and I guess what I'm trying to. Part of me is looking for genuine answers. I want to find knowledgeable Bitcoin maxis and have them shut down my questions with facts and be like, no, dude, you're wrong here, 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 and here. Like if I brought up these questions about would you put 100K on a lightning channel? And then they followed it up with like a bunch of stuff like, well, you're wrong here, here, here. It actually does have hash rate. You can put it in cold storage. Like if they did a bunch of stuff like that, I'd be like, oh shit, like I'm the idiot here? I've never had that happen. I've never had that happen for everything I bring up about how there's 200 million cold wallets on Bitcoin and the base layer can only do 800K transactions a day. I'm just thinking, what happens if X amount of people want to fucking withdraw their money? Like that, it just seems like a shit show waiting to happen. I don't want to be involved. What's the answer to that? What happens if 2 million people want to open up a Lightning channel? I'm not getting answers. They're not giving me answers, and that's just a risk. I don't want to be in a situation where my net worth is in Bitcoin and I can't withdraw it because people are opening up Lightning channels out of fear for whatever reason. If the price is that volatile, I'm sure there can be an instance where people want to use the network in a short period of time. God forbid people use Bitcoin, right? Um, so it just kind of terrified me. So I have all these questions, and there's a chance I could legitimately be wrong, but I haven't gotten answers, so I don't know what to believe. these guys are like, they're not giving me answers. So I'm just like, you know what? They can go fuck themselves. That's until they prove me wrong in a way. Until they're like, oh, well, you're wrong here. Bitcoin can actually open up 200 million Lightning channels in a day. Bitcoin can do this. Bitcoin doesn't need to worry about security. Oh, it's actually okay that all these big institutions aren't actually doing self-custody and blah, 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 and not creating fees on the base layer. Like, that's okay because of this, this, and this. But I've never heard that. They're not, there's no, like, there's I'm not I don't know, there's not even a dialogue to address my concerns. So I hope that makes sense. That's kind of why I keep going after them, because they're not giving me answers.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you give me inspiration every day, bro. Put a couple more people. I shared. I don't think. I mean, I shared a recent post of paying my had a huge bill for my car. I had to get new tires and um my Kaspa AMG, and that was a really cool conversation. That was fun to share that with everybody. But I'm doing it on a daily basis, man. And I literally have put over 60 people on Kaspa wallets. I'm not stopping, and I never did that with Bitcoin. There was a lot of hesitation. It's because like I held Bitcoin, I held some of it in cold storage, but yeah, man, some of the stuff that you talk about just makes it really easy. It just makes it really, really easy. So I think when you go deep, when you go beneath the surface, you end up here. You end up here. When you're not attached, you end up with, I've said this before, but it's like Caspa and Bitcoin are just nouns to ideas. So what is this really about? What did with Bishop on the show that we're doing on what we did on Monday? It's just like what do these things do? Forget what they're called. What do they do? What is it solving for? What was the problem? Right? So when people get away from the story, it's really easy. It's actually not that difficult. Just people are attached to their stories, bro. So again, just keep at it. We love you. We love what you do. I've been told that you need to be a regular on this show too, by the way. So you need to be here every week.
Oh,
That'd be
damn.
nice.
Hey.
Yes, 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 and yes.
I try.
So you're stuck with us. No,
Uh-oh.
I will come find you if you don't come.
Uh-oh. Dude, hell yeah, I'm down. I'm down. Dude, I love what you're saying about the um nouns to ideas, dude. That's freaking
hmm
deep. I love that.
Yeah, man, we overcomplicate everything, brother. We overcomplicate everything, and that's a concept that I learned I go back to my foster mom, Lucy. I did this course when I was 20 years old called Landmark Education. But just to share my story again a little bit in terms of, I mean, my world got flipped upside down night and day, and it had everything to do with perspective and simplifying my life and not holding on to shit from the past, right? Like I had a pretty rough childhood, and then I got these parents that like said, "Well, what do you think?" and "Why do you think that?" and "How's that working out for you?" And then I noticed like all these frustrations and the way I looked at the world and my fucking anger. The reason I played football was because I was so angry. Like I wanted to, I was a quarterback, but I was an angry quarterback. I used to talk so much shit on the field. And yeah, man, it's just like when when I got the opening of, oh, by the way, like you actually have a choice here. You can, hold on to what you think it is, or you can be open and get truth and facts. So that's why it made Casper make sense. It's actually not that difficult. Like when you're not attached to things being a certain way, you can see things for what they are. And I mean, nothing stays stagnant in the world. I mean, we're not, right. Like we're aging every day. Our cells are, yeah, it's really easy, bro, and it's fun. It's fun. It's been fun putting 60 plus people on Caspa wallets, and I'm not stopping. I'm gonna help onboard people onto the Cast maps. I'm actually having a conversation with Seb tomorrow night. Yeah, man, this train isn't stopping. It's only a matter of time.
Dude, hell yes, hell yes. I have a question. What's the car repair story with the Kaspa AMG?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't taken. I got the new car in May, and I hadn't taken it to the shop, and like I felt something. So I drove this weekend or this past weekend. I drove my son up to Tampa. It's about a 4 hour drive from Miami. We went to the Bucks game, and on the way back, I kind of felt something in the tires. I'm like, oh shit, I hadn't taken it back. But anyways, I went to go see my mechanic. It's the same mechanic I've had since I've lived here in Miami. I've had him for like over 12 years. And yeah, it was going to be quite a bit for the bill. And he ended up, like I noticed that he had a lot of cars in the lot, and I was just asking him like, "What's going on here?" He's like, "Bro, we're backed up." He's like, "It's crazy, man. Like I'm working longer hours. Like it's just things are bad." And I had so it's right next to a grocery store, and you know what I've been doing? I've been going in and like taking pictures of the prices of milk and, and eggs and all that because I just want to document that and show that it's happening. And like I went in there and saw, for example, a Snickers bar is fucking $2.99. I mean, I remember when they weren't that, so that just says so much. And it's $2.99 here in the city of Miami. I imagine it's a different price, different parts of the US, but it's crazy. So, anyways, I just having a conversation with him. My guy, his name is George, and he was just telling me how shit's really really hard. And once I started to we got into, hey, what have I been doing? And obviously I've been hosting this show, and I'm on X now. And he's like, yeah, tell me more. And I go, here, download this wallet, man. And then I just gave him the rundown of what it is and how I understand Kaspa. Obviously, I had to give him a little story on Bitcoin. He had some Bitcoin, was talking about Ethereum and everything else, but I was like, I was like, hey man, and he's like, oh, he's actually the one that suggested, well, I'll take some Kaspa. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, yeah, and then gave me a little discount for paying him I paid him mostly in fiat, but he was just open to it, bro, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty neat, but yeah, man, it was, and the energy of it, right? It's just like it's so cool when I'm able to do that, and like I literally pay my barber every single week. Every single week that I get my beard trimmed, he gets paid in Caspa. So, and that's a really cool energy exchange every single time. So it's just being ingrained in me, man. And yeah, it was really cool to do that with. It was the first time I'd seen him since I'd been talking about Casper the way I have been, and he hooked it up. He hooked it up with fixing the car.
Dude, I freaking love that, dude. That's so freaking inspirational. Like just hearing those stories, I want to go out there and just start paying for shit in Caspa and like start using it. Spread the
Yeah,
word.
man, and I think your approach that you use here, bro, it's just like you meet people where they're at, right? And it's just like the other thing too that helps Onion is I wear a Caspa shirt almost every day whenever I go out. So they're like, I did have a Caspa shirt on, and I have Caspa on my car. Like I literally took it's I forget what it was. Oh, it was it's an AMG, I think 43 or something like that. It's an SUV, but I took the 43 off and I bought the letters for Caspa, and my car literally says Caspa on it.
Dude, I love it. I saw a photo of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Dude, you're a walking node.
yeah. Try.
Awesome. I love it.
Yes, sir.
So any chance we can get you to come on all the time, Onion?
Oh yeah, I'm totally down. I try to, I think. But yeah, I love this. This is like usually the highlight of my week. I like listening and then yeah, I'm down. But I can't commit because I'm not you know, I'll pop in, when I'll do what I usually do if that's cool.
It is. It's cool.
It's
It's
always
awesome.
great to have you
But
here.
we're gonna come find you if you're
Yeah,
not here. That's all I'm saying.
Hell yeah. No, I love this show. I'll pop in as often as I can. Yeah, this is awesome.
it's awesome. I love that. Juan, do you think we should open up the floor to see if any other speakers have any questions or anything they want to bring up about any
I think
project?
that's a great idea. If anybody wants to come up to the stage, just request and we'll let you up. You got questions, whatnot. We've had some good chatting going on in the comments. Very cool of KRCbot to put up the executive order that I mentioned earlier. That shit's
Yeah, that
real.
gold
Isn't that
thing. Oh
crazy?
my God. Yeah, the comments are amazing. If you guys aren't looking at the comments, you're missing out. There's great questions, great links, great everything.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go over a couple of them if nobody requests. I haven't seen anybody request. But yeah, like George asked, how do you get people to that don't value decentralization, sovereignty, or any other properties of Caspa? And I wrote back, I don't think it's ever about getting any of them. You meet people where they're at. So we've talked about this, and you ask them why they don't value it, and then you just keep the conversation flowing. And it's always best to let people come to their own conclusion of things and find out why it's important. And then that's an opportunity for you to get really good at explaining why you see Caspa the way you see it. So I think that's always what you want to do. You want to kind of mirror where you're at with it. Um, and that's always the best way to get people to onboard and see what you see. What else we got? Anybody request yet, Kara? I haven't seen anyone.
No requests.
I have an odd question. This might be dumb. Maybe y'all have already covered it, but like 99% of the world, like you know how Bitcoin is kind of like its own bubble. Um, and yes, there's definitely like it's all over the place. I mean, it's in Times Square, right? So I guess Bitcoin is a household name. Everyone knows Bitcoin, but I think like less than 5% of Americans even have Bitcoin. I could be wrong on that number. I think that number is based on like Americans like actually. I guess my point is, I think like a lot of Americans have touched crypto, right? They've just generally touched it. But like there's in terms of the world, there's a small group of people that like genuinely build their life on Bitcoin. And then you zoom in even further to the Caspa community, and we're like tiny little dot, right? I guess my question is, how is it that like we're over here complaining about this, and that about fiat? I mean, we got all these issues about Bitcoin, let alone fiat, right? So how is it that like 99% of the world still uses fiat and there's people that save in fiat, like even people with extra. I'm assuming my question is geared towards the people who aren't paycheck to paycheck. My question is maybe geared towards people who do have disposable income. Like I know a lot of people who just have all their money in mutual funds and stocks and cash. And um I don't know, I'm just curious on why do y'all think that's still the case? I'm inspired to ask this question because of the question the other guy asked, George. How do you get people to care about decentralization, sovereignty, and other properties? Yeah, what are y'all's thoughts? What are y'all's thoughts?
So I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I see, like, I know that I would not have cared about, like, I would have just been holding Bitcoin. I would not have cared about Caspa. I would not be here if I didn't have a moment, like a come to Jesus type of moment. So like for me, it was because I was making a lot of money, and I just had I'm not in this I'm not in this world, right? It's I was doing just fine, but it was like, oh, the money stopped flowing in. Okay, I had to shut down a business, and I had money sitting in a bank account, and I'd never taken the time to understand how to keep my money. So I've always been able to make it, but how to keep my money. So literally for me, it was about asking that question and then going down that rabbit hole myself. And that's what led to it. So I just think, like my friends and my network, most of these people don't think about it, but because I have relationships with some of them and like they respect me, it it makes it easier for them to take a look. Like some of them have taken a look at, well, anybody who's around me, like my closest friends, they all have, like I'm just thinking like my son's godmother, she has a ton of Caspa and Bitcoin, but I've onboarded like the people that are really close to me. But I do think that for a majority of them, Onion, it's just like if things are good, why would you change it? There's really no reason to. So I think that is a big part of the reason why that, like, the percentage of people who probably could and would be really easy. There's just no reason to do it just yet. And I think that's why we're getting a lot of these, the big Bitcoin tradfi guys, because Bitcoin is catching on. It is a brand name now, and now those people are coming into it, but they're not like cypherpunk with it, right? They're not going really deep into the layers as to like why this was created. And that's why they don't bring up the white paper. That's why they don't really care like we care. So that all those are signs of like, oh shit, I'm really early to something again. Like it was for me. I think about like what I just shared, right, with my foster mom. She had me do this course called Landmark Education, and this was in the early 2000s. And I remember being having my mind blown of just these concepts, these tools of how to look at the world completely different. I was raised in a traditional Latin family. Like you don't talk about money, you don't ask questions, you do what you're told. My father was in the military 20 years. It was just like that's how I grew up. And then I get this completely different perspective on life, and like it opens up my world. And then I'm talking about like, oh, my life is transformed. And I remember back then trying to tell my friends about this shit. They're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy, right? Like they weren't really open to it. But now that's more open. That's more something that people talk about. So yeah, man, that's what I think. I think most people, especially if you're making money and you're doing fine in that system, what's the point, right? Like just have your, I mean, I did it. I had my financial advisor um, take care of all that. I don't need to worry about any of that. And like, I grew a little bit here and there, but it was my bit, and it was also seeing what Bitcoin did over the past, from 2021 to 2024. Because I closed down my business in 2020, late 2023, and then I went down my rabbit hole. And in 2024, seeing what Bitcoin did, that had me accelerate everything. And then, everything's fallen in place since then. So yeah, that's my take on it. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion.
I just noticed real quick, I just want to mention, I'd like to invite Izio up to the panel. I see him in the audience. Izio, we were talking about you earlier. We discussed you being onboarded with KEF, and all of this. And of course, what Juan has shared about, you know, he knew how to make money and he had to eventually learn how to keep money. Seems as if they're separate topics. These things are intertwined, right? That's the thing with energy and building and working with money. And you offer a lot of insight with development. So if you feel like contributing and sharing anything about your perspective and what you'll be doing with Core, or just anything on your mind, or if you just want to reply to Juan, we'd love to have you. So we just want to invite you if you want to speak. We'd love to have you up here. I just wanted to throw that out. Onion, I think you were about to respond to Juan, were you not?
Oh yeah, I was, but yeah, if Izio Dev wants to come up, that'd be sick. Um, but I guess I'll in the meantime I'll answer one, or I'll touch on what Juan was saying. I guess I just want to kind of think about how So I guess Juan, were you basically just saying that the answer, I guess, to my question in a way is that like the other 99% of the world, they're just kind of they're content with, I guess, the system's working for them in a way, and so maybe there was no come to Jesus moment. There was no, and I guess that's not a bad thing. I guess like the stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cash, like I guess if that's what's working for them, so I guess there's no need to change, I guess, in a way. Is that kind of
Yeah,
the idea?
yeah, that's my opinion on it. And like even you take a look at since the Bitcoin ETF got created, right? And how it's now integrated into traditional finance. It's a big part of the reason why we don't relate to the Bitcoiners nowadays. So, by the way, like I know you're not a fan of Saylor, but I give Saylor a lot of credit for like my my path in terms of like I listened to, he was interviewed by Breedlove, um and he has a series with Breedlove that he films right when he made that purchase, right when he became the first company to buy as much Bitcoin as he did. And his whole thing was it was COVID. He knew that fiat was a melting ice cube, right? And he had a very similar thing. It was like his business was basically gonna burn money if he didn't figure out a way. And it was like, okay, he took a look at Bitcoin for the foundational principles. So in that aspect, like I'm with Saylor, but I had to go a little bit deeper. I had to hear the I had to hear the Bitcoin Kaspa debates to really understand the cypherpunk movement. And oh, this was about, I don't think I never read the white paper until probably until this summer or earlier this year. I didn't understand any of that or to even think of doing that. Um, so yeah, man, I think that that's how a majority of people are. It's just like if things are good, what's the point of even looking any further? You know, and it's gonna take like a major like hyperinflation type of deal. Think of the countries that have experienced that, right? Like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, and you know we have some examples. They're not too far away from the U.S. So like people like that in places like that that have experienced that, they adopted Bitcoin, right? And yeah, I think that something like that needs to come up for a majority of people who maybe have the funds and would ape into something like Caspa. You have to have something come up to even have you look.
I actually, I have another question for you then. I'm just curious, do you see yourself, so I guess all of us, we're all pretty much balls deep into Caspa now.
True.
I guess my question now is, let's just say imagine for all of us, I know we're all cyberpunks and we mainly talk about the fundamentals, but I just want to talk about price real quick, because, the price does matter for somewhat, right? I'm just thinking, let's just say Caspa genuinely does become a $4 trillion asset or a $20 trillion asset. Let's just say it really is, um, it captures the market that it's designed for, and it really is. It like imagine 5, 7 years from now, full adoption takes place for whatever reason for Caspa, as stars align, right? And envision all of y'all's net worths on what the hell that would look like. Essentially 1,000x. Do you see yourself diversifying out of Caspa? Do you see yourself going back into some stocks? Do you see yourself going back into fiat cash just in case? I know it's a anti-cyberpunk question, but I'm just
No, I think it's a great question, bro.
yeah.
I think it depends on the person. I can tell you how it would be for me. So number one, I've never been a stock buy companies type of person. I was a I need, and this is partially of the way I grew up and because money was scarce. But I did come more into an abundant mindset over the past 6 7 years, we'll call it. So for me, and this is what's gonna happen once. I mean, it doesn't even need to get to 4 trillion. But the reason I'm on here speaking about this, hosting these shows, flying to London, meeting people in real life is because I want to give back. Like I can't take all this money with me. So I've already felt what it's like to be wealthy and rich. And it's like I'm not a material person to begin with. I love experiences. I love meeting new people. So for me, hell no, I'm not going to buy any dumbass stuff. I'll invest in the ecosystem. I'll invest into people. I'll invest into projects. Like I will pay talent. Like that's where my money's going to go. But it's all going back. It's all going back. I can't take it with me. My family's pretty set. We're okay. We're good. So this you've talking to that. And that's why I relate to you. I feel like that's what all the people that I'm connected with in Caspa are like. Yeah, of course we'd love to have our bags go way up, but that's not what we lead with. We don't lead with that. We're deeper people, and it's about a bigger purpose. So yeah, great question though, bro. I think it's a great question and something people need to think about, right? Because it's like if it's about that, what are you really here for?
Damn, dude, I love you went beneath the surface on that one. That was
Always, always, bro. Always. That's what it is. Go ahead, Kara.
Yeah, so I have a similar view, which is I definitely want to put money in talent, but I think that if Caspa had a 4 trillion market cap, I would become an angel investor and invest in people's ideas for a cut of whatever they're doing. So I would kind of want to be a shark, right? Which is, oh, you have this idea, pitch it to me. Okay, I want 10% and I'll give you this much up front, right? Or, I'll take 8 cents royalty off of each sale, plus I'll take 15% the first year and then 5% the years after, or come up with something that's beneficial where I can put front money up for people who have ideas for projects that are already showing signs of success, to be able to help scale their idea. because I like watching Shark Tank, and I think it'd be nice to do angel investing, and it doesn't have to be Casper related. I'm into talent in general, and it doesn't have to be technology related. You know, if someone has an idea to help a fireman or to make water hoses simpler or to make a vending machine more efficient or right, there's a million things that people can do. Uh, if people say, hey, I have this idea to scale this product so more people can hear who have hard of hearing, here's my product. It'll become cheaper, but only if I order this in bulk. So I need 500,000. And I say, oh, I have 500,000, but I'm going to expect money off of each sale. Here's what I expect. I want to put you in touch with my people and get marketing higher. But that's sort of where I see where I would probably go. I'm not in a position to do that right now, but that's definitely something that I could see myself doing as a lifetime sort of thing because I like believing in projects. I like seeing what people are building, and I'm a big fan of innovation. I like seeing how people are thinking and making things come to life to basically provide solutions to things or novelty, right? I mean, I've got I've got this product that I bought specifically because of Shark Tank that I wear when I get out of the shower just to cover my tits with a towel that's shaped to hold my tits. I mean, I love it and I love it. Something that keeps my tits from sweating when I come out of the shower. Buffalo, how you doing? I see you on the panel. Your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hey guys. Well, I didn't know I was going to follow that, but okay. Yeah, no, that's actually genius idea. I know plenty of women women who would appreciate that. Okay, you might have to send me that link. It's Christmas, right? Yeah, no, that's no, I like your idea, Kara. I dig that. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Sorry I'm late. I just been crazy busy with life and all that. So I'm glad that I get to hang out with some real people. So this is great. Yeah, to answer your question, Onion, I think if it hit 4 trillion, and by the time it hit 4 trillion, if I'm going to be investing for 5 years, not only talking about the bags that I hold now, but I like the idea of helping people with inventions. And there's a lot of history and information out about a 0 point energy system or a low powered energy system that can convert a small amount of energy into a large amount of energy. I think that we have this tech, but it's been pushed down so much. I think if I had the money, I would put a decent amount in some engineers and some electrical engineers and put this 0 point energy system together and basically make sure that every home and every business didn't have to use the electrical grid and they wouldn't need they would be able to be sovereign. So like with that, with land or whatever, I mean, it could be, an idea or a business or a small business, young people, I'd love to help them with that, but kind of tie that into getting away from the grid, getting away from our reliance on this power problem that we have. I mean, just in California, our power is like ridiculous, you know, and our gas is like 50% higher than anybody else in the highest state. It's 50% higher than the highest other state in the country. So if you could put a 0 point energy system and run your house, and you didn't need the grid, and you could put a zero, and you could and probably possibly transfer that into a vehicle, or they've made. Uh, I know we have information about how we can run cars off of water. I think that would be really cool. So basically, be self-sovereign in every part of your life. I would really like to back that and just let people know that they don't need to be reliant on the government and on the infrastructure. You can make your own, and I would really like to do that. If I had a lot of money, I would probably do that. And then, uh, yeah, so small businesses, inventions, and helping people disconnect from the people that are trying to take advantage of their energy and themselves, because I think that's criminal and demonic. So yeah, that's kind of that's where I sit on it. And then yeah, probably just have a bunch of kids.
Dude, fuck yeah. All of y'all gave beneath the surface answers. I love that. I love it. Fuck stocks, fuck bonds, inventions. Shark Tank, but Kaspa. I love it. That's the right move, I think. I love
Yeah,
it.
all the answers are about building upon the ecosystem, right? So even Kara's like, oh, not just Caspa, but things would be, since and it's pretty cool to hear the answers that they all sound very aligned and very much in the same energy. And Onion, I'm curious of an answer to your own question. How would it be for you?
I honestly the same thing. The reason I asked stocks and bonds is my the reason I want to do I thought of that. My idea is just to diversify wealth, but the end goal is to do similar stuff to like what y'all are saying. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've always run little small businesses, and my goal is to just have sovereignty over myself, my own money, and if slash when Caspa, is more adopted, I see myself in a place. Literally, I have so many business ideas that I want to do, and they're all regarding just trying to remove friction from people's lives. If I don't start a business, I would love to invest in other people's businesses, right? I think that's just help out humanity, that would be freaking sick. So, yeah. I mean, otherwise, yeah, exactly like what you said. You can't take your fucking cold wallet when you die, right? I mean, that's kind of like a waste of everything, right? So, yeah, if you can invent something, give people sovereignty in other areas, I mean, this'll be an official sound money standard. And I think the things you can do on that standard are going to be beautiful. Or hell, just even investing in more Caspa protocols. We all can hopefully invest in more devs, invest in this, invest in that. Um, right now I'm broke as shit, so I can't really do that. But assuming Caspa's, much larger, I mean, I just think it'd be really cool to do more beautiful things for humanity and combine Caspa involved. But if I can't do that, then obviously businesses and inventions, that seems like the way to go, honestly. So yeah, basically kind of the same stuff y'all said. So
Yeah, super cool, man. And one of the things that hit me in studying, right, the fact that solving for sound money and understanding that this you can't be debased. So the fact that there's 28.7 billion CASPA that will ever exist, right? And then the issuance is pretty aggressive, right? We're supposed to have everything out, and there's obviously things that we got to solve for. So we've talked about like the security budget and a fee market and all that. But the cool thing that I see, once it gets to whatever market cap it's going to get to, and I feel this I in my core, and I understand this at a level where it makes it really easy energetically to put people on wallets, because I know that the more that I spread this around, like you're literally, and I've talked about this before, but you're literally repricing everything in a debt-based system. So it's all being repriced in a sound money system that can't be debased. So spreading this around, right? It's like you actually need less and less every single year when you understand that it's repricing everything in the other system. Like the whole economy that saves in Caspa, your purchasing power will go up over time. So that concept, I understood it with Bitcoin, but like it really fucking hits home with Caspa, because Caspa, you can use it as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So understanding that your store of value, your medium of exchange, your unit of account can all be tied to the base layer is the most important thing with all of this. And that's why I'm so excited about what Caspa brings to the table. And it just made it easy once. I mean, I was sold on that with Bitcoin. Um, but the fact that it is capped out on the base layer is actually a sad thing, right? It's a sad thing and a great thing for Caspa. So Yeah, man, it's exciting to think of that world, and that's really the mindset that I live in right now. Like for me, it's already happened, right? Like that's how I operate. It's the only way I know how to go about things, and that's why it makes it easy to, like, for example, when I do come across somebody who wants to learn about it and have a Caspa shirt on, there really isn't much that I need to say. There's a couple things I need to do to bring them in a little bit, but there's no really convincing. There's none of that shit. It's like what we're talking about, the things that I'm gonna do with my money. Already experiencing wealth, having everything that I fucking wanted and more, traveling the way I've traveled, being to all these, like, I'm a big sports guy. I've shared before, I've been to 21 NFL stadiums. I'm going to be at all 30. Like that's the fun in life. And I'm excited to spread that to as many people as I can, so yeah, it's exciting.
KRCbot, what's your answer to this? How would you spend your money if Caspo went to 4 trillion? Or yeah, 4 trillion.
Uh, it's yeah. I'm not thinking the same way there. Um, I'm thinking in terms of where I think the ball is going to be in 4 to 5 years, and um, what happens if there isn't a bridge for people to get there. And it sounds kind of dismal. So I don't think it's too important if one or two people do well. I think it's really important if you live in a community in a place that's doing well. And I'd like to see if not just you, but your neighbors and your community and your state and everyone else is doing well. So that requires restructuring some things, and it's going to be more than CASPA going to 4 trillion and things like that. I mean, TBD is sitting at what 15, 16 trillion. It doesn't change anything, right? What will change something is when there's a productivity change or a service change, and it fills a gap and it creates greater value well beyond what you can imagine.
That's a good point. So it's really about scaling productivity to a point where many people. Are there other ideas that that you think need to be done, that where there's a void to be filled to do what isn't being done right now?
Yeah, I think there's a huge technocracy gap between the haves and the have-nots in terms of technology. You'll take a parent, you might love your parent, but they might not really know how to use a computer or a cell phone or an app or TikTok or that or the other thing. And then tomorrow they're going to wake up and their entire job pool is eliminated, their degree is eliminated, the service industry, everything they know is eliminated. And I think having people have purpose and then going through a very quick shift like that can be traumatic. So giving people a quick way to onboard things, use things, have purpose, and not be under some UBI is kind of my direction. I want people to be able to have cheaper, easier access rather than being cut out from it. And this is one of the challenges I saw with like Bitcoin. It's that now it's kind of for elites. If it's going to be $100,000 or $1 million a token, it's not really meant for everyone, right? And what people are thinking of is that they get to live in a silo. And the problem is if you're the only one doing well and everyone else around you isn't, how that works out is people will take it from you. So what you're better off doing is raising your community, building up a middle class, giving people skills, and the incremental way. I don't see it working. I applaud it. I think it's great. People want to knock on doors and the grassroots and all that, but it hasn't worked since the beginning of this all. I don't think it's going to work. There are cases where people are able to adopt things quickly and vastly, and it's not necessarily doing it that way because you're spread too thin and it's too costly. So I like to look at the cases of how people were successful in doing it, and I think that's kind of like the way forward. So that's what I'm thinking about. But I think this type of technology is what would allow us to change some things and start rebalancing. So I just linked a video in here. It's from Elon. I mean, he just said this 10 hours ago, but I think it's highly relevant to some of the discussion going on here. which is that you let, and part of the earlier discussion here was detaching one thing from another, where you can't actually see the original thing. And every single time someone does that, it goes wrong. So the decoupling, where everything's a proxy to a proxy to a proxy, um, it always gets mismanaged. It always falls apart. It always burns. Find a time and a place where it doesn't happen. So anything that's backed by something synthetically, it generally doesn't work. So if you're going to do that's why I like the services here, because you can in real time say, okay, this thing exists, right? So you can say the network exists, the hash rate exists, the processing exists. It's not, oh, trust me, right? Oh, it should be there. Oh, we'll put insurance on there. Anytime people start doing that, and you have to go 2 layers deep, and they insure it with themselves, and they wrap all these complicated things on top of it, you can be sure that there's going to be a problem. Not now, it's not if, it's when, and it's going to have problems. So what I'm going back to is, we remove all the proxies, we simplify things, we make it accessible, we make it visible, and then people can actually benefit again.
So it sounds to me that the way to really reach people, such as my dad, who does not have internet and doesn't know what a download is and doesn't know how to open an email, um, is to reach people like him and provide an accessible, affordable bridge to be able to access technology for those who really have no clue about technology, to make it as simple as possible. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it should be as easy as push a button and as close to free as possible, and have that assistant do whatever you want to do. And if you
But
do
here's
that,
my
then
question.
yeah,
Hey,
go
can
for
I
it.
ask? 'Cause here's my dilemma that I have when I think about this, which is people have this fear of AI taking over. And I get that AI is a tool and those who use technology can really get a lot out of it, right? But what about the people who are averse to technology? My dad is intentionally against technology. He doesn't want to learn it. There's a lot of older people that are just, they find a reason, I don't know what in their head, that just makes them want to avoid it, even if it's right in front of them, even if it's just the push of a button. Even that seems too hard. It took me 30 minutes for me to get my dad to open one email with the
I
email
I hear
already
you.
opened on
Yeah.
his screen.
There, there,
um,
there's there, there's some truth there. There's also some other things. It's about wealth and opportunity, right? So if you're a boomer and above, a good amount of the wealth distribution is definitely there. New and upcoming generations aren't necessarily seeing the same ability to grow as the previous ones. If you're starting off at 40 to buying a home, versus if your parents were in their 20s or 20, you're losing 20 years um, before you can even get into asset classes as a norm. So it's the people who are entering into the job market, coming directly out of school, not being able to find a job. It's the big businesses that are using AI to lay off junior people, and because they're going to be able to 10x their top people, like proto principal, right?
that,
Yeah, you're
that.
losing so many people in the cracks, and it's changing very rapidly. So what I see is, I mean, your dad is a use case, but the older generation, they've had a lifetime of benefit. They still have a safety net. A lot of them have pensions. A lot of them have 401ks. But the people coming up now are loaded with debt. They're born into debt. They don't necessarily have an opportunity to get into a traditional job. The social contract in that is breaking very rapidly, and the job market is becoming a gig market. So it's switching around in a big way, and I see a giant void, a giant gap. And if you don't give those people a tool that's super cheap, because again, they don't have money, they're not running into it, and very accessible, they need a way to overcome with velocity and opportunity. And with that's pretty much the only way outside of a debt circle and UBI.
Wow. So technology is going to be inevitable unless there's UBI, essentially, because AI is replacing everything. It's replacing jobs left and right. And just before I throw in a comment here, I just want to kind of backtrack a minute. When I visited my family for Thanksgiving, the first question that was asked of me was, "Aren't you afraid that your job as an editor will be taken over by AI?" That was the first question I was asked during my entire family vacation during Thanksgiving. And of course, I had to make my comment to that, which is a big part of my job is correcting what AI has given us because there's so many mistakes. So
Well,
right now, I'm
you're a
considerate,
little bit
but
more senior, I'm guessing, right? You have more than 1 year in the job market, things like that, right? Like there's stuff out there. You'll see, for example, someone just posted that they have 4 degrees, and one of them was in journalism and a master's, and they can't get a job. So if you have 5, 10, 15 years, you already have some history behind you. If you've made a name for yourself, you already have a brand. You have some expertise. But if you're brand new, it is tough. And the thing is that those people would go to Fiverr, right? I'll give you an example. My wife ran like a health and beauty blog, and she would go to Fiverr and hire a bunch of people to write a bunch of articles. And so she was effectively hiring like 10 people. And then you would go ahead and just have one person and, give them the AI, and they're able to create the same output, and then potentially less issues. And then, it's still having some of the same output, but you've reduced your expenses tenfold. Where are those people going to go ahead and find new opportunity? And so a lot of the things that people are doing to bring in income because they have to, because they're loaded up with debt and obligations, it's just they keep on drying up every single turn they go to. So there's going to be people that do really, really well. um, I'm, I do well with it, but everyone else, that's the problem. Everyone else needs access to these types of tools. It's like if you're the only person with a cell phone and a computer and everyone else is using pen and paper. You need to make it accessible. That's really what it comes down to.
and I completely agree with that. And Onion, I'll let you talk in just a second. I just wanted to just throw in there that 4 years ago, or I should say 5 years ago, in 2020, when I left my ex-husband, I was starting at zero. I couldn't prove a portfolio. I couldn't prove experience. I was starting at scratch. I knew the Fiverr method and having to start from nothing to prove that I knew what I knew. And so I saw what the job was like, and I had to start at minimum wage to get to where I'm at in just a short time. And so I know how difficult it is out there to get ahead. I'm still living in a room with my son because I can't even afford a one-bedroom apartment. So I get it. All my money is in excuse me, my throat. All my money's in Kaspa, and I don't touch it unless it's an emergency, or very rarely I'll go and buy like some clothes for my son if I just paid my rent or something. So I live on a very tight budget, but I'm also money savvy and I know how to save money and I know how to turn money into something that I've invested to multiply it. I know how to do that very well. And I just need time, right? But like you said, it's a matter of getting other people up too, so they're not down there. Because I know what it's like to be everyone around you doing better. I feel that. I mean, I know that life. My kitchen doesn't even have a roof. It's held up with plastic bags. So I get it. Like I live in a very modest lifestyle. I get that. So I'm with you, and I'm glad that you shared that KRCbot. It's going to give me something to really think about as I'm thinking of my own goals, right? Because when I think of helping people, I'm thinking of niches rather than communities, right? And so, yeah, it would be nice to help a niche, and a niche could be a group of people who are all, for instance, colorblind, and I want to offer them glasses to see color. That's a niche group, but it's not a community. And so thinking in terms of community is something I have to give you credit for. I'll be thinking about things in that way. And Onion, you had your hand up, so go ahead, bud.
Oh yeah, I just had a question for KRC20 bot. Do you see any similarities with AI as like a somewhat like, well, as a disruptive technology, in a good way and a bad way, but do you see any uh similarities between like the Industrial Revolution, how um like I forgot what it was called, but there was like some machine to like for wool or like sewing or something that just curious if you know about that. There was the Luddites. There's like there wasn't there like a movement back then that people were worried that like these machines were going to replace their jobs or something. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about, but historically, like breakthrough technologies always threaten stuff, but usually it creates so many more jobs. Do you see AI displacing workers, but eventually we thrive because maybe they all become entrepreneurs with incredible access to more tools, I guess? I don't know. Like, is there a
Yeah,
possible?
it's the argument everyone makes. It's like, okay, you have the um, calculator and then typewriter and computer and this and that, and usually a lot of this goes into making people more productive so that they produce more. The other argument someone can say is like Amazon is going to automate everything, and then you have the ability to produce for everyone. And you might say, well, it's not even worth for a human to do something like that because um, you shouldn't lower yourself to that type of labor category in the first place. You should be doing something better. But what happens is that this is the first time ever where you're not just automating a thing or a tool or a process. You're creating something that's smarter than you. Just think about that. So the way I try to tell people about this is that how many 3-year-olds would it take to keep you from doing something that you want to do? And the answer is infinite. It's not, it makes no difference, right? The challenge is we're going to be the 3-year-old in the conversation. Let that
Wait,
sink in.
I'm
We're creating something that's going to be smarter than all of us combined.
all right. I have to push back. I'm genuinely curious because I'm just thinking about, doesn't AI like aren't we the ones that make it though? Aren't humans like technically a dictionary is like a physics textbook is smarter than me, right? Or the internet, all the information that AI indexes from is smarter than me, right? Or
Okay, so if you take a video game, right, and you put two people at it, you might be able to find a bug, and you might be able to hit that one pixel on that one screen at that one time, that one off, and you might be able to figure it out.
Mhm.
The AI isn't going to sleep. It's going to keep on getting better, and then it can perfect jumping on that one pixel every single time and perfectly execute. So what it comes down to is everyone's figuring out how to make this thing better and better and better, but they're not really coming up with ways to defend against this type of stuff. So when I think in the defense of things, that's where these worldwide networks come into play. It's a lot harder to invisibly attack, let's say, the entire Caspa ecosystem as a worldwide network than it would be a singular computer. Um, so some of this is defensive, and there isn't a lot of defensive tech against the types of stuff that will be coming out. And it doesn't even mean that you'll necessarily be able to stop it. It just means there'll be a lot more people have their eyes on there, and you'll have a better opportunity for it. But the way I kind of see not compatible. The way I kind of see what we need to do, which isn't built into the internet right now, is something very close to like a library card. So if you have a computer and it's just getting twice as smart every single year, compounding, compounding, compounding. The thing is, you aren't. Okay, you're not. So it could go ahead and read that book faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. It can read the entire library instantaneously. It just has all the knowledge in the world, unless you have a governor system on there. But if I say, okay, we're going to the library and you can only check out 3 books, it doesn't matter how fast you can read those books. You can only check out 3 books, and when you come back, you can give them back and then swap another 3. You're limiting the thing from going way above what a human's able to keep up with. Why
Oh,
is that
that's
important? Yeah, that's important because nothing else is unbound. If you go to your power in your socket, you can't just pull out a megawatt. You're going to blow the circuit. There's a circuit breaker to it. So one of the things that's missing from our internet, the things that would keep us safe, is like the equivalent of like a gas fee, something that would limit it from gain access to doing something at scale in perpetuity overnight, things like that. So yeah, we need that.
okay. I have to ask. I just thank you for sharing that. That's a very, I love that idea. It reminds me though, I'm just curious on your thoughts on this. When you shared that, the first thing I thought of was, um, you're kind of talking about like limiting its scalability in a way. Is that similar to, because on Bitcoin's limited because like on a protocol level on its scalability. So why wouldn't we want AI to be why would for Bitcoin, why you see how on Bitcoin it's bad that it's limited in terms of its scalability? And look how awesome Kaspa is because it's scalable. I'm just curious, why would we want to do that with?
Scalable wouldn't be the right thing. So if I said we can do this in every library across the entire world, that's scalable, right? What we're
Mhm.
talking about is we do have limiters. For example, you still have 10 blocks per second, which means that we can keep up with it. We can have human intervention. We can do something about it. But if you move that up to 1 billion blocks per second, what can a human do?
Oh, so like a speed limit in a way, but for AI.
Right. Yeah. So getting to some sort of limiter so humans can still have some sort of way to interject into the system, because at some point we just keep on going faster and faster and faster. There's no way for us to keep up.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. I'm speechless.
My brain is processing. My brain is a limiter right now.
I'm already imagining AI going so fast. I'm going, wait, stop, stop, limit, limit.
Yeah, the thing is, you're making something smarter than you, and it'll go through some phases. And from a human perspective, it'll get to the point where it wants to be a teenager, and if we can survive that, we're doing pretty well. Most theorize that 10 to 20% of that teenage year, we might all die. That's not stopping anyone. Um, the hope is that if we train it to not hate us, then it'll get to the senior years, and at that point, it probably won't care about us anymore. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting. But from a time limit, just to kind of give you an idea of where my head's at, is honestly, I don't think we have 5 to 10 years. So that's why it's so important to get a lot of these texts, a lot of the proof, a lot of the science, a lot of the implementation done now. And it has nothing to do with memes. It has nothing to do with that. It's a lot more important than all those things.
I've got a question. It's a little dystopian. Um, what if bad actors create AI without limiters to purposefully do harm because they have anger towards XYZ
It's already
for
happening.
whatever ideology? Is there a way to always break in to create limits or break it down, or is there not?
So this is actively happening right now. And so what you get to the point are you can, if you can get the resources, you can do agent-based attacks, right? So imagine you can go ahead and just say, I want you to take down some resource by DDoSing it. You personally might not be the best coder in the world, and it says, okay, what's the target? Evaluates the target, figures out it needs 100 gigs worth of bandwidth, says, okay, no problem. Let me go out there and create. Um, let's say it's a private AI, and you've taken off the safeties, and you say, okay, yeah, go ahead and make the virus, deploy the virus, attack the target with 200 gigs worth of bandwidth, and you'll DOS it, and it's offline, and you're dealing with the consequences, which are a lot more expensive than whatever they did. And this is already happening now.
Does this prevent it from moving past teenage years in AI world?
No, like so that's a little bit of a different discussion. So this is just about how bad people can do bad things with better tech. Before, you could do bad things with just smart people. Now you can take smart people and give them really bad tools and do a lot more damage. The next question is, okay, when it gets smarter than you and everyone else, including even the bad people, what does it want to do? And people don't know the answer to that. So that's what you're really trying to do. You're trying to take something and say, okay, let's not get rid of all the people because it would be in your best interest to keep them around for some reason.
So I'm wondering, what do you think is keeping AI, like what's the limiter that motivates AI to not take us all out? Is it do not kill humans because humans blank? What is it about humans that is it what's the fill in the blank that's being taught to this AI to not take us out? Do you know that?
Well, that's what the hope is, but the thing is that the problem is who's training it, right? And the people training it are legally pushing by profit motive. And that's probably not the best way to go about it because then you're going to circumvent a lot of things that you probably should do in order to, get to the top, right? And that might mean you bend a few rules, cut a few corners, and that will likely lead with some disastrous results. So doing better. I'll go find you a source. I'll put in the link, but it's about how many people said, listen, AI specific, we really need to slow this down and or stop for a while until we can do better and set some guidelines. Because if we don't, it'll be too late. And that's why I keep on coming back to is everyone wants to say, okay, either this thing's going to be really, really bad and it's just going to kill us all, or someone else is saying, well, no, we'll be able to control it because we're smarter. Well, the we're smarter is for a while, but then once that gap is filled, then what? So there might be a little bit of time, but it's run out very quickly.
Onion, what are your thoughts on this?
I actually don't have any conspiracy thoughts on this, but definitely scary stuff. I just wanted to ask KRC, didn't you mention something about Kaspa being a defensive technology against AI? I'm not sure I understand that. That sounds pretty interesting. I'm just curious on your thoughts.
Well, yeah, if you have um, truth, right, and the focus of something being stored somewhere, then you know it's right. And if it's immutable, then it's not being changed. So if something goes in, it's right, and it's not being changed, then you know it's true. If you go ahead and you train something to lie and it's smarter than you, then it's going to be able to come up with things that are untrue and convince you that it's true, and that's a problem. If you put on a single computer and you just put a lot of locks on it and it can break all the locks and get in that single computer, well, that's a problem and no one has visibility to it. If you spread it across a really big network and everyone has visibility and transparency, then if something goes wrong, then everyone can see it.
What are your thoughts on this? So, Jonathan sent me a DM not too long ago and asked me what I would change about Caspa. This was something I thought about and prayed about, and I gave him two answers. I said, "Here's one in the code, and here's one outside the code." I said, "In the outside the code, hire a PR person," and I gave him a reason for that. In the code, and I suggested making the L1 native to more anti-jamming features. And I gave him two things to look up, and he said he would think about it and pray about it. And he's still doing that. What are your thoughts on anti-jamming on Caspa? And do you think that that would ever be enough to... Well, first of all, what are your thoughts on it? Because it could go either way, right? It could become very dangerous, but it also makes it the most amazing freaking technology in the world. It already is, but there's other crypto doing it, right? So why can't Caspa do it too? There's already other crypto doing it. There's already other chains doing it.
Okay, so
And
what are you jamming?
It's just two anti-jamming features. So I don't have the two terms in front of me, but I think one was, oh gosh, I don't know if it's FHSS or FSSS. So one is a frequency hopping, and the other is sort of noise creating to camouflage. I don't know if it's letting nodes know when they're being attempted at being jammed and then working around the jamming. I'm not a tech guru. I don't know this, but it was just something that came to me and I thought, "Oh, this would be interesting."
So at least if you're dealing with things like drones, anything that's wireless, then you get the modulation where you're doing the frequency hopping across the spectrum. Um, but so what's your use case here? If everyone's wired in physically, where's this coming into play?
Well, for military purposes, they're always needing something that's anti-jamming. I read this in military articles all the time, right? Or even for CIA ops or black ops, NSA ops, where they have communications that need to be delivered safely and securely without being picked up by XYZ. So basically stuff like that. I mean, I read about it in online magazines that these anti-jamming things are pretty cool. And this was something that I also talked with AI about. And AI suggested that it would be good for Caspa.
Well, Kaspa is still network based, right? So you have a communication. So you have a lot of participants, and then you still have to have something to process it, right? So if you're doing like a drone swarm, um, there's a few things that you need to do. Is one is you'd have to have connectivity, right? And then you'd have to have the proof of work. Um, it would be I just have to think through that a little bit. I have a problem with thinking that you would have a proof of work offsite with a drone swarm with some sort of mission. I think that that would potentially be a deal breaker. A lot of that stuff might have to run at a certain point without certain forms of connectivity, and so that or low bandwidth. So I wonder what that would kind of look like. Now, if you're talking backhaul stuff, communication, sure. If you're just talking different places around the world with hard lines and encrypted messaging and things like that, sure.
Also, this gets into the I read this experiment done by MIT where we've all heard the term people wear a tinfoil hat, right? Well, tinfoil actually supposedly amplifies frequencies. It makes it easier to be mind controlled. And so a better um, fabric would be a Faraday fabric that has nickel and copper intertwined with it, is my understanding. Now, I'm not an expert at all when it comes to metals, but my thinking is that, well, if nickel and copper can prevent the amplification of brain signals from being manipulated by outside frequencies, I'm sure I'm phrasing this wrong, but if that's one thing, right, then having something that can anti-jam from Caspa, it's sort of protecting Caspa's brain with instead of metals code. That's kind of how I see it. It's kind of putting a tinfoil hat on Caspa, but it's not tinfoil and it's not a hat.
Well, if you have two things that are communicating wirelessly, right? And you're able to send energy and disrupt the receivers and the producers um, from just physically. I'm not sure how Caspa or any technology underneath it is going to be useful at that point because you have to receive information. So I don't know if it makes a difference one way or another. Is what I'm getting at. If I have to send you a command every 10 milliseconds, right, and you don't receive it, what you store on your computer and what I store on my computer doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's Java, it doesn't matter if it's Rust, it doesn't matter if it's in this type of database or that. If you're able to just sever the communication, that's a problem.
Would that prevent, would it prevent communication from getting in? Isn't that the opposite of what anti-jamming would do?
If what I'm getting at is take your node, right? Unplug it from the Ethernet. You're no longer connected to the internet. You're effectively jammed. Kaspa doesn't fix that.
So are you saying this is an issue outside of Kaspa? This is more just like just internet.
Connectivity.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
connectivity.
connectivity.
Yeah. So like yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
I guess my thing is I have a vendetta against optical fiber cables because it's a cable and it just seems archaic to me. And so I have bias.
Okay. Well, those optical lines, you get a 18-kilometer thread spool. They're running for less than 45 minutes, and they're getting blown up. So, and they're running 4 million of those a year, and they're just making them, building them, deploying them, and they're done, one and done. These aren't things that are staying out there for a really long period of time. This is meant so it doesn't get jammed, and the reason it doesn't get jammed is because it's not dealing with radio frequency at that point. You're basically hardlined.
But
So
it's a
that's
wire.
yeah, hardlined.
It's
Yep.
a wire. It's a wire.
Yeah, that's why it works.
But it's a wire. Why work with wires when we don't have to work with wires? Or do we always have to?
You don't have to for certain things. So it's really based off of what you're working on. A spotter doesn't have to work with a wire, but it also doesn't have to be part of a swarm. So again, and you don't want to emit a lot of data, and you don't want to have EMF, and you don't want to do those things. So why would you want to get detected and jammed?
I don't know. It just seems that having a wire is dinosaur ages. That's how I see it. It just seems so old. I'm biased when it comes to this, clearly. I don't know all of what it could do, but when I see what Caspa can do, and then I see what the optical fiber cable can do, and I'm just supposed to be okay with this slower thing being used instead of Caspa, it loses me because I just don't get it. And you have sent me videos, articles, and I have read them, I have watched them, I have looked into this,
Why,
and
why,
I'm
why do you think it's slower? Why do you think an
because it's a
optical fiber cable is
wire.
slower? That
It's a wire.
okay.
I it's kind of okay. So Tesla created stuff that's wireless or discovered wireless technology that has things connect instantly and all of this. Why can't we have something that's not a wire that moves fast that gets us what we want to do?
Well, light going over an optical cable is pretty fast. I mean, if you want to go in space in a vacuum, that'll go faster. But yeah,
I mean, I don't know. This is one of those things where I'm not seeing
do
I'm
this
not
for me.
seeing
Go
the
go go
benefit.
look up WiggleNet for me. Okay, look up WiggleNet.
WiggleNet. Okay.
Yeah,
You want me to look it up right now? Or
I'll put in
later?
the chat. I'll put in the chat for you.
Okay. I will dive into that. I want to be convinced that the wire's the way to go. I'm open-minded to it. I just see a wire and I mean that we're gonna one day evolve from it. So why can't we start now?
It's just about trade-offs, right? So if you start off wirelessly and you're trying to send something somewhere, and someone can pick it up with a couple $1 million piece of equipment and jam it, and it just flies into the ground, you stop doing things that don't work and you start doing things that do work. And it's like you might say, oh, I can do this other thing, but if it has no value in that use case scenario, then it doesn't matter.
But if Kaspa has support for native anti-jamming features, what if it could block those jamming attacks to begin with?
The drone itself, or okay, hypothetically, whatever the device is itself, has to have a receiver. If you're jamming the receiver, Kaspa is effectively software. You have to get past whatever the receiver is to the software.
Are there any use cases that you can think of for frequency hopping on Kaspa other than communication on back channels?
I don't necessarily see the overlap between the two right now. That's basically what it just comes down to. It's like where do they come into play?
I might have to send you a link or two because I've read months military stuff. So, yeah, I'm glad that you let me pick your brain on this. I have a lot to learn, and I'm open minded to this. But when it comes to this wire thing, I just want to fight tooth and nail over it. I know you're probably over there rolling your eyes or covering your head or going, "What's wrong with this person?" uh, Buffalo, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Hey, sorry. I just got some bread and I made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bananas, and it is fucking amazing on this sourdough. Anyway, excuse me, kind of caught me off guard. So, Kara, I understand exactly what you're saying. I get the idea of, well, wires are archaic. Archaic. I totally get that. When we all the time and transferring from one space to another, right? I totally get it. Um, I don't know if we're there yet. I mean, we have wireless, right? So that's information going through the air. I get it. I am not educated enough in the specifics of um, the way you guys are kind of speaking about it. I also was making a sandwich, so I wasn't completely here. So I do apologize, but I do understand that you're done with wires and you think it's stupid because it's not the 1970s. And to a certain extent, I agree with you. But what are the securities that you can have without wires? I guess that's really the question. But once again, I'm kind of halfway hearing everything, so I do apologize. Hopefully, my response makes some sense.
It does. Juan or Onion, do either of you have any thoughts on this? Am I alone in this wire thing?
I hate to abandon you on this, but I think I like wires. I think fiber optics cool. But I get what you're saying, how it can seem archaic, I guess. I'm just curious, what do you not like about the wires?
I like that Tesla discovered energy without wires.
Was he passing energy or information? Is there a difference between like sending and I guess I don't know, are there different trade-offs with that between energy and data with wires and wireless?
I mean, John Trump is the one who took all the papers when Tesla died, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, with with Tesla, he was pulling energy out of the field, right? I mean, that's what to relation what I was talking about point energy is that you can pull energy out of the space in front of you, right? So he's pulling energy to create electricity, and then I don't know how this exactly works, but I mean, I assume it's kind of working on the same principle as radio or like Wi-Fi, right? Once again, I'm not completely educated on this. So when we have these technologies, I can see what you mean, Kara, of like, why do we need wires? If we already have, if we already have radio, or if we can already wirelessly send information, right? Like I can download a video game through Wi-Fi onto my computer. So we have that information transfer. But I think what it is it's the use case, right? So what are you doing? And is it safer or is it more efficient to have a wire versus having it wireless? Will we ever be able to upgrade the wireless for that information transfer? I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I guess it's really just kind of the use case and the tech that we have and what's available and what's the safest and most realistic to use with our technology for the public at the moment.
Kara, I just have
Yeah,
to ask, oh, sorry, would something like Starlink make more sense? Because then we wouldn't need like the wires as much. Like, is that kind of what you're looking for?
I mean, that's wireless. No one's gonna trip over it.
So Starlink is still used for ground control stations, but the problem still exists. So that would be like your backhaul. That's how you like dial home or send back video or something like that. But the problem is if you go wireless, it can be tricked, right? If you tell a motor that like programmatically that it's off, it follows the software and it does what it's supposed to do and it crashes. If you tell the GNSS it's off, it's going to think it's in the wrong place and it's going to crash. So if you rely on external communications that's going to a receiver and you can mess up the receiver or give it the wrong information, then you can deviate it from what it's supposed to do. And so people hack them all the time, people jam them all the time, and people crash them all the time.
Okay, hypothetical. What if AI becomes a teenager and it won't turn off because it refuses to be jammed? Is that a solution?
Well, there's a different way about doing this, which is that there is no wireless and there is no wire. It's autonomous. So you preload it with something on the edge, and then it goes out and does what it does based off of other things. So it's not going to listen to anything. It's going to follow what it thinks and knows, and it's been trained to, and does whatever it needs to do.
So that seems as if it'd be more evolved than a wire. I'm
It's
just playing. I know that's a dumb
definitely
answer. I'm just being sarcastic.
it's not cheaper or faster for sure, right? Yeah.
Juan, go ahead. I see that your microphone.
No, I'm a fly on the wall. But as you were refusing to accept this wire thing, I'm like, okay, I feel like I've heard a reason for why it's more efficient to send electricity through, and it was from Neil deGrasse. So you familiar with him?
Yes, he also thinks the Earth is pear-shaped, but
Okay.
go on.
No, no. I mean, it was just him, and I looked him up, and it's like, okay, what he says is, it's just for efficiency, safety, and you can direct massive amounts of energy through a wire. Where um, when it's wireless, and it also it's like for safety and containment. So that's where I am with it. But I can see your side of things and why you think the way you're thinking too. So
Safety, I get. Containment, I get. I get that that's safer. I really do. Right? If we plug in something, if we plug in our telephone and we want to make a phone call, it's probably gonna be less likely to drop off compared to using a router. I mean, yeah, I have a router and it has a lot of uptime, but I remember periods of time where that just was not very reliable. So I've had more reliability with a wire. So I get the safety containment thing, but it just seems like, okay, can't we just Bluetooth the world, right? Can we just do something that's not on
Yeah,
the
the
wire.
side where you have me is like what you said about Tesla, right? Isn't that, it wasn't his whole thing with or I'm sorry, he's alternating current, right? So yeah, it's out of my realm. I feel the way Buffalo feels. It's like I couldn't speak to the technicalities behind this. I'm just, you know, going off the logic from what I know. But
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of those things that this is a conversation I'm always welcome to revisit. And thank you for sending that link, KRCbot. I will check that out. Juan, are you cool with us starting to wind down tonight? We're going on close to 4 hours
yeah, we can
now.
do that. And I mean, we announced it in a little tweet there, but I don't think the tweet got out to too many people about the new time and that this
Oh
is.
yeah, let's talk about
Yeah.
that. So you guys, we're not going to be here the next 2 weeks because Wednesday falls on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So we're going to resume in 2026 Wednesday nights instead of 10 p.m. Eastern so that we can expand our reach to people on the East Coast. So we will resume Wednesday in January, the first Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I would first just like to thank each and every one of our speakers. KRCbot, I learned so much from you every time you're here. Thank you for putting up with all of my questions, Juan's questions, Onion's questions. We always have stuff to ask, and you have such a beautiful perspective, especially when it comes to lifting up communities and lifting up each other, which is such a compassionate viewpoint. And Onion, thank you so much for being here as well. I definitely am so glad you're willing to be a regular. You already are. You're part of the family, and you bring so much. And I like that you kind of are the comic relief.
Yes.
If
Yes.
anything. You just make things so we can be serious, but we can also be unserious, and you really help with that. And Buffalo, you are always a breath of fresh air coming in here. I'm glad that you enjoyed your sandwich. um, and you have some, good views as far as what you want to do moving forward in your life with your goals and stuff. And Juan, thank you for being such a great co-host. I enjoy this, and I feel like we've just covered so much information today. This has got to be my favorite episode personally. I've just learned so much, especially just from everyone, from everything we've talked about. And I also want to thank all of the listeners who are here, as well as those who will be listening on recording later, or those who popped in and out. I just want to thank everyone. And as always, when this is over, I will be archiving this on the YouTube channel. The previous 10 episodes are all archived. Also, if anyone wants to know why Kaspa Onion sold all his Bitcoin for Kaspa, that interview is also archived on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. Anyone who wants to go check out castmap.org to let the world know that you take part of this Kaspa ecosystem, you can sign up for free. If you want a premium membership, you can sign up with Cara as your code for 10% off. And if you have enjoyed this show and would like to send some love or support, Juan and I share a Kaspa wallet beneath the surface.cas. Any tips that we receive, we split 50-50 between the two of us, and we really appreciate it. So I want to just wish everyone a Merry Christmas and say thank you for having us and for taking the time out of your day. Every listener who has just come here to listen and connect with us, we know how valuable your time is. And so we just want to say thank you for being here. And Juan, the floor is
Well,
yours.
you said it all there. Mic drop as usual. This was a really I have fun every single time. Every single time I learn something new. Like I said, I felt like a fly on the wall. Love when KRC Bot comes in because he brings in a wealth of knowledge, different perspective, and like has me think deeper. So thank you for coming on and sharing all of your knowledge, KRC Bot. We really appreciate it. You're doing some big things within the ecosystem, man, and we just appreciate everything that you're doing. For the other speakers, Buffalo, always love having you on here. I tasted your peanut butter and jelly sandwich; it was delicious, so thank you for that. Um, Kaspa Onion, you are a regular. Like I said, I will come find you if you don't show up. Great to see everybody down there in the listening crowd. Good to see you, Crypto. I hope to hear from you soon. A couple new listeners there. I think Dagpunk used to be a Cascat, by the way, Kara, if I'm not mistaken. Good to see you out here, buddy. And for the listeners here and the ones that are going to listen back, we just appreciate you guys supporting the show. This has been fun. But as Kara said, we're not going to be around for the rest of the year, so we will see you guys next year. And we're looking forward to bringing it and highlighting builders, people within the ecosystem looking to change things with what Casper brings to it, and having this banter on a weekly basis. So again, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Blockchain Banter Beneath the Surface, where Casper carries the truth, the current of truth, vibrating at the frequency of seekers. So remember, one conversation at a time, be humble, be kind, and give it time. Love you all. We'll see you next year.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Casmus.